All right, what's going on out there, everybody? JV Wins, Dogon SS. We are here once again, Tuesday, October the 1st. Appreciate everybody who is tuning in to the latest edition of the Conscious Approach channel on YouTube. As we continue to kick out this logical content, we certainly appreciate you joining us along for the ride. If there is anyone out there, and this is the first time you've seen any of the videos on this channel, if this is your first time catching wind of the type of content that we like to put out on this channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, man. Get those notifications anytime we publish new content to the channel, because this is how we like to do things each and every day, each and every week. So thanks in advance to anyone who has not done so but will in short order subscribe to the channel so that you can get those notifications whenever we publish new content to the channel. Now, of course, with that out of the way, we'll go ahead and get right into it. First thing that we are going to talk about is an interesting exchange between, at this point, friend of the channel, Boosie, because we have used him as content on the channel several times now at this point, and Young Miami, who has a popular television show / podcast, and Boosie was a guest on her show. And Boosie nowadays is more so talked about because of his stances on, LGBTQ stuff and family values and the impact of certain kinds of messages therein on children specifically. Boosie is more known for that these days than music. I think at this point, music for Boosie is secondary. Most people talk about Boosie are going to be talking about him because of the stuff that he says, whether he's on a show like this or whether he's on his own social media platforms. And he has claimed in the past that he is bullied by the LGBT community for being proudly heterosexual.
Oh boy.
And he has challenged the idea that what makes what you guys are doing by bullying him not as bad or not the same as when that particular community talks about the kind of mistreatment and bullying they receive from others who don't see their point of view. So there's a tit for tat back and forth that goes on between Boosie and members of that community quite often, and I would imagine that this is no exception. So this, to provide a little context, says Boosie Badazz wants to know how Young Miami would respond if her son wanted his nails painted. It's no secret that Boosie Badazz is going to voice his opinions on things, especially when it comes to sensitive topics. One of those we all know about is his views on the LGBTQ plus community. Overall, he claims to have no issues with people that associate themselves with it. That's at least what he told former NFL quarterback Cam Newton on his 4th and 1 podcast. Where he draws the line with it is how it's affecting the younger generation. He did pull out the pretty lame defensive tactic of saying that he's got gay people in his life, so how could he be against it? Allies and participants have been vocal back to him that they don't understand his constant chatter, but if you have noticed, Boosie doesn't seem to want to put it down. In fact, earlier this month, the Louisiana rapper tweeted, "If a man is painting his nails, it's equal to a man wearing a thong up his ass." Real talk, get it sexy, get it sexy. His controversial nature regarding this discussion is why Young Miami brought him on to a live version of her nominated podcast, Caresha Please. To no surprise, they were having a debate about the effects of the LGBTQ plus community on the kids. However, Boosie posed a difficult scenario to her that would be challenging for any parent to go through. Miami does have a son, Jai, so he asked the mother of two, Mama, that's written weirdly. He asked the mother of two, what is he asks. I think they meant what if he asks. That's a typo there. Yeah. So he asked the mother of two, what if he asks, Mama, I want to get my nails done. She sort of dodges the question, replying, I feel like you have to accept people for who they are. Miami then goes on to correlate Boosie's Southern Baptist upbringing to his more traditional views. Overall, Boosie seemed to agree with that point, and at the end of the day, it should be nobody's business but their own when it comes to how they want to raise their kids. So here is an audio and video snippet of that exchange.
Because all his favorite people who he look up to, all of them got it. So next he coming to mama. Mama, can I get my nails done?
What you gonna say, Carisha?
What you gonna say, Carisha?
What I'm saying is, I have said some ignorant shit before in the past, and I feel like you have to accept people for who they are. And
Taking them to the nail shop.
I think that you're raised that it's wrong. But life is
Yes,
life.
I am.
Life
I'm
is
a
life.
Southern Baptist.
Everybody is different in life.
I'm a Southern Baptist. I would say.
Your dad was a pastor. You grew up in the
No,
church.
my grandfather was a pastor.
You grew up in the church.
I grew up in the church. I'm born in the crack area. You had to go to church, or you would be on crack. You had to go to church. Ladies and not everybody went to church. I'm real. You right. I'm a Southern Baptist. I feel a certain way about it.
All right, so that was a brief snippet of that exchange going back and forth. It's got a lot of people talking. Obviously, whenever Boosie gets on one of these soapboxes regarding this particular subject, people seem to have a lot of opinions about it. So, what did you make of that exchange? He posed the question. Kind of seemed to me like she dodged it, but Penny, for your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I totally think she dodged it. At least coming from her perspective, because I mean, she hangs out with Saucy Santana, so she's definitely part of the alliance as far as having being an ally. So, and she's sitting there running a platform where I'm sure she has members of the community watching her stuff. So, she has to tote that line. And honestly, even though it was a cop out, for her not to dive all the way in, it was kind of her saying no, she wouldn't stand for it. I'm gonna take that as a no coming from Young Miami. But politically speaking, her just the PR side, she did what she had to do there and just get in, get out of there with that. As far as Boosie is concerned, at some point I was like, hey man, just leave it alone. Um, everybody knows how you feel about this stuff, but I guess somebody needs to speak out. So Boosie has taken this on. For everybody that's not for this. So him being an advocate for the people that aren't standing for this, I'm for that. So I'm not going to tell him to stop doing this. I think this is one of his callings, to be out here and advocating for normality. And as far as the whole conversation is concerned, where painting nails, I'm 100% against it. I've seen people do it. I know people that have done it, and they seem to be pretty. They don't see anything wrong with it. They just feel like it's a form of self-expression, a la Dwayne Wade. I feel like there's other ways to express yourself. I feel like there's other ways to stand out and feel unique, and it's not painting your nails, man. So back when what were we in middle school? I think it was middle school, towards the latter middle school, getting into high school, the whole metrosexual thing started to become a thing. I didn't really know how social engineering worked back then, but I was totally against it. And before that, in the 90s, TV shows, talk shows, and stuff like that, they were always telling men to get in touch with their feminine side and all this other stuff. So, I mean, I feel like there's just been this effort to slowly emasculate men over, the years, as far as trends are concerned, and, you couple that with the stuff in food that also batters testosterone, you're going to have a recipe for disaster. So, Boosie, him standing up for this, I feel like as though it's something that needs to be said. I feel like more people needs to, in his position, celebrities and stuff that are against it need to come out and say something, because people do look up to these people. And I'm pretty sure there's some guy that's a Boosie fan, maybe not through his music, but through his social media antics, that's on that line, on that fence. He listens probably to a little bit too much Playboy Cardi or something. You know what I'm saying? And he feels as though him getting in his golf bag and, just being emo, it's just part of the aesthetic. But I think it's deeper than that. And last thing I'll say is last week I touched on, pants sagging and the origination of that. And even though somebody sagging their pants may not feel as though, they're offering their anus to the world, it's still something that is the spirit of it is emasculating. And so somebody can say, hey man, I just painted my nails, I put a smiley face on it, I painted it black, what's the big deal? But I think it's deeper than that, because in the deepest regions of their minds, they associate that with women. And I think that slowly but surely chips away at a man's mental makeup when it comes to them tapping into their manhood. So I do think it's more harmful than not binary, but a benign. But yeah, and I appreciate Boosie for standing up for it. And Young Miami, she copped out. But what are your thoughts, man, on this whole dynamic? Painting nails and Boosie standing up against it. What are your thoughts?
That's an interesting way of thinking about it. I can get down with that. Yeah, I think she pretty much to me gave a non-answer. Like, in my opinion, if you're not convicted in your response and you give a non-response, that is your response. Like, to me, that's your answer. Yeah. So because she didn't full on say, I would take him to the shop myself and we would both get our nails done together.
Correct.
Like, because she didn't say anything to that degree, that tells me that upon initially hearing the question, she's bothered by the prospect of that potential thing. But the fact that she couldn't publicly say it, to me, is what I think is unfortunate, because I feel like, and obviously I'm speaking in glittering generalities here because I know that the world is not like this. But if the world were a more balanced place, she would be able to express how she really feels about it, which is to say, I wouldn't be cool with it. I wouldn't be comfortable with it. And people would be understanding of that, because at the end of the day, people's preferences for family values are their own. And there's nothing really to debate about it. Like, at the most, we can disagree, but it is what it is. Like, every individual reserves the right to rear their household in whatever manner they choose. And if you don't agree with it, that's fine. You raise your kids however you want, and they'll raise their kids however they want, and we'll just meet in the middle. That's what living and being humans is all about. But what we have going on here is that there is a clear line in the sand in terms of how you can publicly talk about this, which is to say, you either have to be 100% on board with your son wanting to paint his nails, or don't say anything at all. But you definitely can't say you're not for it, because then you're a hater. And in her particular industry, she probably, like you said, she probably has a lot of Saucy Santana fans.
Yeah.
And I would imagine she has a lot of aligned women who are amongst her fan base.
Agreed.
And she's not going to commit career suicide by explaining how she really feels about that, which to me would be a reasonable take. I wouldn't be cool with that personally, but if someone else wants to do it, then that's fine. But she kind of went PC on that, which is to be expected, because you cannot actually say you're against it, because to say you're against it by default means that you're an intolerant hater, when the truth is, because you're against it doesn't mean that you're some sort of a hater. It just means that you see things differently when it comes to family values, and it is what it is. So I can't say that I am surprised by her non-answer, but I think it's unfortunate that she had to give a non-answer. Boosie, of course, doesn't care. Boosie doesn't host a popular podcast. He's not really in the public eye like that. He isn't employed. He isn't an employee of a larger corporation like Revolt. So he doesn't have much to lose in the way of being honest about how he speaks on these things. So there's less holding him back in that regard. And just to touch on Boosie real quick, I've said this before. I don't really, of course, because I'm with you, I don't like it either. I'm against it as well. But and because I'm against it and I don't like it, I'm not really offended by what Boosie says. But I think people are rubbed the wrong way by him because of how aggressive he delivers his message. I think that if he did it in a less aggressive tone, he'd still have people wanting to cancel him. But I don't think it would be as polarizing as it is. It would still be polarizing, but if he was less aggressive, it would be a little less polarizing. But he still would be in a situation like, if Boosie was an employee for Revolt and ran a TV show and had corporate people to answer to, even if he was more tame in the tone of the delivery of his message, he'd still risk getting fired.
Yeah.
Or all of this other stuff. Because again, in that space, you either have to be neutral or 100% on board. You just can't be against. That's the one position you can't take, because to be against means that by default you are a non-ally. And of course, life is much more complicated than that. It's a lot more nuanced. It is not black and white, but that's what these people want. That's what these people want you to do, is they want you to live in the world of absolutes. You either need to be 100% on board with who we are and what we stand for, and you can't introduce nuance in the conversation, because when you do, we're just going to brandish you as a hater. And to speak real quickly on the point that you made about, the emasculation of men, I agree with that as well. And it's a slick sleight of hand thing. It's the same type of thing as the idea that a comedian dressing like a woman is funny, and how there's this disparity in entertainment of men being women compared to women being men. And the question that I posed, I believe we talked about Marlon Wayans before when I asked this question. My whole thing is that there's a lack of equivocation. Like, if we saw as many instances in entertainment, let's just strictly boil it down to entertainment. Within entertainment, if we saw just as many instances of women being men and being masculine as the crux of the comedy, as the essence of the joke, then I wouldn't say anything. I'd say, okay, well, apparently gender bending is just funny, period. But it's not equitable. And what we see throughout entertainment is there's far more men being women as the joke. So the idea of the joke is this man is being feminine or being a woman. Ha ha ha, look at how funny that is. So my thing is, if this is not some sort of intentional type of sleight of hand thing, why is there no equivocation? But there's far more Big Mama's houses and Mrs. Doubtfires than there are the opposites of that. White chicks and all of these other things. And I don't think it's beyond the pale for anybody to ask the question, why does there appear to be an apparent lack of equivocation? It's not equal. There's far more guys gender bending than women on the grounds that that's funny. And I personally think it's because our current society, especially Western culture, has adopted the idea that embracing masculinity is inherently problematic. Like, there are problems with an individual who desires to be and wants to be proudly masculine. Inherently, it's toxic and there's something wrong with it. Not the historical toxic masculinity, but the measured, reasonable masculinity, the one that stipulates that a person doesn't necessarily see anything wrong with defined gender norms. But I think what we have going on is we've accepted the idea that being masculine, like, you just can't go too far, because if you go too far, we're going to have to reel you back in, because if you go too far, you're going to become a problem. And I think that that's what's going on with the whole nails painting phenomenon. People wearing dresses, guys like Young Thug being on his album cover with a dress on, and that being dubbed as expression. Why is it that a guy being a woman means that's expression? Why are we coding it in these various interesting ways? So I think all of that boils into Boosie's level of discomfort with the ongoing conversation, because obviously the more of it you see and the more of it that pops into your feed, the more it is going to reach young, malleable, and impressionable minds. And in my opinion, it's not really a typical part of a child's upbringing to just automatically question whether they should be a different gender or not. I don't think that that's a normal part of a child's upbringing. Not to say that it doesn't happen, but I don't think that it's normal to presume that at some point every child always questions whether they should be a different gender. But if you see more and more pop up in front of your face, speaking to the idea that it's not abnormal for you to do that, then you're going to have a lot more of these kids questioning it. And to Boosie's point, and I do agree with this, I think you should just leave the kids out of it. But that's how I feel about it. To that end, I don't really have an issue, tone notwithstanding, with some of the stuff that he ever has to say. And I think she agrees with him, even though she decided to give a non-answer because she doesn't want to alienate her fans.
Yeah, and I agree, bro. And I've talked to women of the community. They've got male friends that are part of the community, and whenever I pose a question of, "Hey, would you want your child to be like that, or would you, because some of them, either went both ways or currently goes both ways or whatever," and I ask them, first of all, do you want a man that either has been in that community or currently is? The answer is typically no. Then, or I say, if you want your child to be like that, they give the uniform answer of, I'll love them regardless. I'm like, okay, yeah, but what would you prefer?
Right.
And it's typically no. And so I believe Young Miami fits in the same boat where, she's got people in the community, allied, and all this other stuff. And still to this point, when she thinks of a man, she doesn't think of him, doing dookie love. Or she doesn't think of her son, or her son painting his nails and getting into that community because she wants her son to be a man. So she played it safe. And in a conversation, when you playing it neutral like this, you didn't give the right answer. So man, she basically said no. And for anybody out there that's like, oh, okay, well, what are you guys talking about? And at least for me, I'll speak for myself. Whenever I'm watching all of this stuff go down and it's being pushed on the people, I personally think it's being pushed on the people to get into these various trends. And as you say, as far as Hollywood is concerned, or entertainment, that there's this push of men cross-dressing as humor. So what is this for? And personally, me, I think it's done intentionally to undermine masculinity, but on a deeper level, undermine family. And if there were more stronger families, these people out here that are making money off of people's ignorance, they wouldn't make as much. And there's also, people in positions, in this nation that want to see people, and families in disarray like it is now. And so, for instance, if there was more men in the houses and there were more family oriented stuff and men were being men, instead of wearing somebody else's clothes, they would make their own. Or instead of going to some large chain to get your car fixed, they would make their own. And they'll be less reliant on big corporations, larger entities, and there'll be more individualistic, family-oriented stuff. And I think things will be a lot more balanced. But then there'll be people on the higher end of things that wouldn't be getting as much money. I think there's a lot of money to be made in dysfunctional households. And so the lack of having men being men is actually paying off a lot of these people who are pushing this crap to us, in my opinion. And so, so you go, okay, so it's just painting nails, big deal. Okay, well, it's just painting nails, big deal, right? Okay, well, it's just the soy in the food, right? Big deal, right? Oh, it's just in the movie, guy doing this, big deal, right? It's big deal to you, right? But these things weren't intended for the developed mind. It was intended for the developing mind. And so when Junior's watching this stuff, he looks at it and go, well, what's the big deal? And then he starts to follow that path. And then so he starts to paint his nails. He starts to wear a dress. He starts to do all of this stuff. He still considers himself a male and heterosexual, but he still follow all of these things that are tapering him off of being man. Then he grows up in a society and he grows up being an employee instead of a boss. And then so we have a whole society full of, of men out here that aren't manning. And then women are out here on the back end complaining that we're the good men. We're the men being men at. Where's the guy that's going to build me a shed and shoot a deer? I'm sorry, he's too busy in the salon getting his petties and manis. So which side do we want to choose? What do we really want? So young Miami, even though she want to sit and holler that I'm an ally and stuff like that, she would be one of the main women. She probably has topics on her podcast talking about where are the good men at? Where are the solid men? So, I think that there's something a lot bigger going on with this, and people and they give it to us in these incremental doses. So people don't, fly off the handle. But I think all of these subtle things, whether it's entertainment, whether it's, social trends, fashion or whatever, I think all of these things are subtly eating away at masculinity. And it turns, outside of the doctrines of toxic masculinity and all those other things, there's a lot of things going against what actual man is. And last thing I'll say, countries like China, who are recognizing this madness that's going on over here in the West, they are emphasizing masculinity in their country because they're playing the long game. So 30, 40 years from now, when those guys grow up, they're going to be man. 30, 40 years from now, the men in this country is going to be sassy as hell. Women complain about men being sassy now. Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet. When these little dudes grow up, they're going to be the sassiest thing ever. So people can sit here and go, oh, you guys are blowing smoke, whatever. Hey, man, these kids is going to grow up being your doctors, your everything else later on in life. You want these people to be solid mentally. And one thing that all these little trends is doing is throwing them off the path. So I agree with Boosie. You can't cancel me, man. I'm already canceled, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. We aren't owned by this channel isn't owned by anyone or anything. Therefore, it can't be eliminated. Well, I mean, the reason why this is being attempted, I think, is it's the slick inception of trying to instill within the general population that there is somehow a general equivocation of masculinity and femininity, i.e., women or humans of the feminine variety can do any and everything to the same level of proficiency that a man can, which is once again to just bring men down a peg, because the idea is we're in this mess because we've been ruled by the patriarchy.
Correct.
That's the whole point. But I agree with you. Like, it's not that women are saying, where are all the men who can shoot a deer and build me a shed? It's that the world is telling everybody women can shoot that deer and build the shed themselves.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing. But my thing is, in the dead of winter, when the women are out there shooting these deer, supposedly, are they going to have the strength to drag that deer all the way back to the shed that they may or may not have built adequately? And that's not a matter of prejudice. That's a matter of biology. There are just various aspects of the line of demarcation between men and women, masculinity and femininity, that should be adhered to. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, on this earth, we all have our roles, but to try and actively disintegrate those roles in the spirit of this mission of ultimate gender equivocation, to me, is making us weaker as people. But I think that's what, and the angle that you brought up about people making money, it's an interesting angle that I never thought of, but you can't summarily dismiss it, because it stands to reason. If your dad or your husband or your brother doesn't know how to change the oil, then you got to go to Tires Plus to get it changed.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I mean that's a very interesting way to think about it. Like if your husband or your dad or your uncle or your brother doesn't know how to fish, you got to go to the market and buy your fish yourself.
Exactly.
So all of that stuff that's a very valid way of looking at it. I never really thought about it from the money standpoint. I've always thought about it from just the psychological aspect of it, and just trying to overall make men and the notion of masculinity just diminutive in nature, period. But that's also a decent way of looking at it. But overall, this effort to equivocate masculinity and femininity, man, woman, in general, to me, as a society, just makes us weaker. And yeah, I mean, I might have my misgivings with Young Miami, with respect to her music or some of the other things that she talks about. But one thing's for sure, based upon the way that she responded to his question, she's not with this stuff either. And I think most reasonable people get it. And you can say that you're not with something and have that also mean it doesn't mean you hate it. You just have a preference for something else. And we're all entitled to those preferences. But for a particular faction or element to demonize people for being expressive of those preferences is also a problem with respect to how we treat the discourse of this particular subject.
1,000, man. So, yeah, guys, hey, let us know down in the comment section. Is we tripping? Is Boosie tripping? Or do y'all agree with Young Miami? Hey, man, I'm gonna love the child regardless. or do you think Young Miami dodged it? Us here at the Conscious of personally think that she did dodge this, but let us know down in the comment section, please.
Yeah, and in dodging it, she actually answered it.
Exactly. Jeez.
Next up, we got a guy who I am liking more and more by the day, Jaylen Brown. Now, we haven't actually talked about this. We've been talking about Jaylen Brown within the context of sports for the most part on this channel, with like the Celtics and the Olympics. But we haven't really gotten into some of the things that he is trying to spearhead off of the court. So this was an interesting bit of content that I've been wanting to bring up on this channel for a while, given some of the recent topics that we've done. But this goes a bit more into detail with how Jaylen Brown is structuring his off the court chess pieces so that he has as much control as possible in being able to create some of the initiatives that he wants to create. So this says NBA MVP Jaylen Brown declined $50 million endorsement deals to have full ownership and creative control with his own brand. If duality had an avatar, it would be NBA champion Jaylen Brown. From his passion for STEM to launching a nonprofit aimed at addressing the Black wealth gap, Brown has consistently proven that no box is big enough to hold him in. If winning the 2024 NBA championship and NBA Finals MVP wasn't enough, the 27-year-old has added another accomplishment to his resume by launching his debut performance brand 741. Brown's connection to the number 741 runs deep, with each digit carrying personal and spiritual significance. Driven by his affinity for numbers and frequencies, the numbers 7, 4, and 1 have shown up throughout his journey, symbolizing spiritual growth, hustle, creativity, and fresh starts, according to the brand's official website. For Brown, these numbers align with his leap of faith to break away from the industry mold and do things on his terms. 741 is more than just a sneaker brand. It's a statement about independence, creativity, and ownership. Let's see. This site, I lost my position because of this site with all these ads on here.
God damn it, McDonald's. No free ads here, man. What is this?
Let's see. Staying true to himself is what Brown has done with his brand direction. He wants to be a creative solution for those looking for alternatives to traditional endorsement deals. The self-funded venture also includes a grassroots approach to design and production, and notably turning down $50 million in offers from more prominent brands for sneaker deals to pursue his desires and have complete control of his own brand. The understanding of ownership and value is what's important for the next generation of athletes. It's time to think different and be different, create new ideas. It's time to create more value for everyone involved, from athletes to consumers to employees and the communities that support them. I've poured everything into designing 741, and it's been just as challenging and rewarding as anything I've done on the court. As part of Brown's decision to step into sneaker ownership territory came from the late NBA icon Kobe Bryant. Prior to his untimely passing, Bryant was said to be developing his own independent sneaker line, and his journey helped ignite a fearlessness in Brown to go beyond people's expectations of him. The launch of 741 comes on the heels of Brown signing one of the largest NBA contracts in history. Um, let's see. I want to go down. There's a part that I did want to make sure that I read before we started talking. I want 741 to be a brand that gives back and makes sure kids of all walks of life can have shoes they love without the crazy price tags. Brown inspires 741 to redefine the game with cutting edge, performance driven products while empowering athletes to shape their futures according to their own vision by offering affordable, high performance gear and creating career opportunities for underserved communities. 741 innovation and impact. 741 makes innovation and impact accessible to all. The futuristic design shoe features exceptional shock absorption, exclusive translucent rubber for enhanced grip, and durable high stretch yarns that provide resilience and spring back, reinforced with molded heavy duty thermoplastic for added support and durability. Pre-orders are currently available via the 741 website. So I'm actually going to pull up another link, but I'll let you get talking first on this idea that he's got cooking up here, where he basically wants to prioritize complete creative control so that he can have ultimate control over how and where his brand decides to go and how and who it helps.
I mean, how can I not be for this? This is everything I stand for. If I were making NBA dollars, especially with these new checks these guys is getting, this would be definitely something I would venture into. And I'm proud of the man. So I'm gonna get my pre-order on and cop a pair of these. And yeah, man, I support this 1000%, man. Put that on the power times 10 on that. I just support this so much. I think this is what more athletes need to do. And that's part of his statement there, where he's just trying to inspire others to follow his path and get your own thing going. Kind of, just tapping into our last topic of, manning and, creating your own. And who says we have to keep falling into this system that was built already, of, hey, sign a slave deal, we'll use your image and likeness through perpetuity, and we'll cut you this little, small check. And yeah, you'll get residuals on the back end, but it's nothing like what we're making. And so why sign up for that if you have enough money contractually through your NBA deal or NFL deal to create your own legacy for your own family? If you want to sign people to your shoe thing, fine. If not, you still have the power to create your own shoe that's going to change or revolutionize culture. I remember when Stephon Marbury started his back when we was in high school, and I didn't cop a pair. I did want one, but I didn't get one. But I liked it. Some people would wear it to school or to hoop in or whatever. And it was a mixed bag between people clowning it and not. The only reason why I got clowned was because everybody knew how much it cost. But on the other side, it was still this other part of, oh, hey, bro got the Starberries on. All right, cool. And Stephon Marbury did it for the same reason, for these outlandish prices. And somebody can look up how much a pair of Jordans cost to be made. but it pales in comparison with the retail prices, and definitely these resale prices these sneakerheads are doing. So, so to create something out there that's affordable, a name behind it that's powerful, like Jaylen Brown for these young kids. Hopefully they buy into this and start getting some pairs. Even for the people that were wearing Shaq. Now Shaq's got clowned regardless. It wasn't like Starberries at all. Starberries had some appeal to it. Shaq's had none. But Shaq was still doing the same thing of just trying to make affordable shoes for kids. And even if somebody had a pair of Shaqs on, honestly, for me, I would still look at it like, I know you got them from Payless, but they're still Shaq's shoes. So there's still respect behind that. So Jaylen Brown pushing these out. Personally, the design on it looks a little underwhelming, but I'm still gonna buy and support. Hopefully he gets some engineers and some designers on his team that's gonna make some fly stuff down the line. But even if they still have some non-aesthetic appeal, I'll still rock them. So and I'll make them aesthetic. So hey man, so I'm down for this 1,000,000%. I'm proud of the dude. He said that he was going to try to help rebuild Black Wall Street with his contract money. And if this is a step in that direction, which I believe it is, I support it 1,000,000%, man. So what are your thoughts on Sir Jaylen Brown turning down deals from these larger shoe companies and developing his own? What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I'm with you. So the shoe thing feeds into his larger non-basketball initiative. So I found the article that I was looking for. So this gets into the development of his nonprofit, which he called Boston Exchange.
Okay.
So I'm just going to read a little bit of this real quick. So this says Brown announced a new venture spawned from that desire, Boston Exchange. According to a press release shared with Afrotech, Boston Exchange is a nonprofit that aims to create $5 billion in new wealth for underrepresented communities through investments and partnerships that could lead to investments, coaching from seasoned individuals, and resources and workplaces for creators. True systemic change requires collaboration, shared vision, and collective impact. By working with community partners, thought leaders, and cultural influencers, we can create a powerful network of support and innovation. This collective effort will empower underserved communities, drive sustainable economic growth, and enhance the quality of life for everyone in Boston. The launch of the Boston Exchange is a key component of this strategy, providing a dynamic hub for these collaborative efforts. Together, we can close the wealth gap and transform Boston's economic landscape, ensuring that every individual has the opportunity to thrive and succeed. Already, Boston Exchange has onboarded MIT Entrepreneurship Centers, Roxbury Community College, and Harvard, as well as community organizations and advocates aligned in its mission as partners. Go away ad. Let's see. Roxbury Community College is thrilled to partner, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so Boston Exchange's first step is the launch of the Boston Creator Incubator and Accelerator in partnership with Drew and Lauren Holiday's JLH Social Impact Fund. This program aims to provide creators in various industries such as design, arts, media, entertainment, fashion, and culinary arts with the necessary resources to conceptualize, produce, and launch their products. Resources include access to work and marker and maker spaces. So that right there encapsulates everything that I've been talking about this whole time on this channel. Anybody who is not aware of my stance on the way that you bridge the wealth gap, go back and look at some of our previous videos. I remember a couple of weeks ago or a few weeks ago, we talked about Master P and how he is going to be the entertainment ambassador for the Super Bowl in New Orleans. And my thing was, I don't give a damn what they do entertainment-wise, but if this can create inroads for P to establish, institutions, resources, I was saying, Bill, I've been saying for I don't know how long. You can quote me, you can attest to this. I've been talking about building STEM schools in underserved communities. create these institutions, build these hubs, these startup hubs, these tech hubs in areas where you can position these people to create value for themselves so that they cannot be victimized by the modern American wage system, the slavery system. This falls right in line with that, in my opinion. You always see these tech startups in these privileged places where people can't afford to go unless you're affluent and you have the money and resources to gain access. And then once they have filled up their spaces, you can't get access until somebody declines, until somebody doesn't renew their membership, which pretty much never happens. I remember when I lived in Tallahassee, there was the biggest one. I don't know if it's the biggest one still there, but at the time it was groundbreaking because there were few like it in the country. They built this startup hub called Domi Station right there near Railroad Square on Macomb, up out in Tallahassee, and you paid a hefty amount of money for membership to this place, and you paid a subscription fee each month. But what you gain in return was invaluable access to resources to create whatever it is that you wanted to create, whether you were a designer, a coder, if you were an artist, if you wanted to create a podcast. They gave you the infrastructure so that you can create the means for your freedom with hopefully the idea that in the long run, you can sort of position yourself to not have to be beholden to a check writer into perpetuity. The idea is you're the creator. You can be the bearer of your own funds. You can be the bearer of your own finances by creating and then retaining ownership of whatever it is that you create. That's what people need more of. People don't need more ways to get gainful employment. Like, people don't need more ways to become no disrespect to any of these industries, but people don't need more ways to become social workers, teachers, journalists, administrative assistants, account managers. But we need less of those people in the world. Those people have no leverage and no value. They don't have any real valuation in the current market. They can get let go in a quick minute. What we need more of is people who are future proof, which is a term and expression that I use often. You need people who are future proof, people who are prepared with the necessary skills to be a part of the evolving economy in such a way that they cannot be casualties to the modern day, slavery marketplace. And I think this symbolizes that a lot. This is the first high profile person in the athlete space that I've heard of who's actually doing it this specifically. LeBron builds his school, Jaylen Rose has his school, and we got other people doing other stuff. But in terms of the specific ways that you can position people to be future proof, to be modern day slavery proof, to be wage proof, this is how you do that, in my opinion. And in the interim, you'll collect a paycheck. But the idea is you're also a creator. Correct. Who has leverage through your creations. And because you own it, no one can necessarily take it away from you. And you'll have value in the open marketplace because of those creations. And that really is how you bridge the wealth gap, not by flooding people into the modern day slavery system. Another person that we mentioned was T.I. T.I. was talking about how he was buying buildings in Atlanta to give people affordable housing. That's really great. But another thing that he can be doing is something just like this, but in his own neighborhood. Do it in Atlanta. Put people in these positions so that they cannot be victimized by modern capitalism, which is obviously what corporations and capitalists don't want, but it is what will free people, not sitting them at a desk and making them another employee.
Yeah, man, I agree, bro. And I didn't know he was doing that other thing, but this whole initiative, I support all of this. And this is something that I don't mind spending my money on. For him to be out here doing these types of things, I support this. And I think other like-minded people are going to be out here supporting him as well. And it's also, lends into the credence of his complaints about the Olympics and other things. of his faux pas with Nike and other stuff. And they probably knew about this stuff, brewing and or in the works possibly. And he had to pay for it, quote unquote. And so one of the shows that I think that articulated what I'm about to explain the best was Ozark. And in the Ozark show, if you guys have watched it, spoiler alert, but it's so old. But when the guy, he got into the game and he started getting in there, and he moved to a new town and started moving around and and trying to do his thing, he realized that there was already a connected network going on that he had to placate to and get into politics with. And one would think that a small town like that, there's no big shots moving around running things. Well, surprise, there are. And so for Jaylen Brown to be getting into this space, into this arena, and trying to not only just create his own but help others create their own, I would imagine other corporations would perceive this as a threat. And so so I'm sending positive energy Jaylen's way. I support this, and I would just urge him to be careful out here. Because you are going, there's going to be a lot of eyes on you, is what I'm getting at. So he's going to have to keep his nose clean, and which he seems to be. He seems to be a straight up and down dude. But yeah, man, keep your nose clean, man, and keep doing your thing. But I'm pretty sure this is going to upset the apple cart. And if there are more people that follow suit, which I hope there is. I mean, there's a lot of millions floating in the NBA right now, to the tune of hundreds of millions for a contract, guaranteed. So we talk about, taking that lump sum of money and investing it and creating something for your own and not just spending that away. So if others either follow suit in their own way or collaborate, this is going to start something that is much needed. And, for our community, and honestly, people here in the West, there needs to be, we need to get off of this reliance of these large corporations that are just screwing everybody. So yeah, again, this ties into the first thing, what I was talking about in the first topic, where, there needs to be more people out here that are creating their own things and not relying on, like you say, Tires Plus, not relying on Publix, Kroger's, or HEB. People are out here doing their own, developing their own, growing their own. And for him to not just be, giving lip service, but actually putting action behind it, collaborating with the likes of Harvard and MIT, I feel as though this is very commendable, man. And so, I support this dude. I was already, appreciating him just for the lip service, because you don't even hear people talking like that. And like you say, yeah, you hear about people starting schools and stuff like that, which is commendable. But, this is taking it to the next level. And, he's not a billionaire yet. And so for him to be doing this with his contract, and there's people out there that we know that got more, this is bold of him. And I can tell this has been something that's been on his heart for a long time, and he's actually getting it done. And honestly, man, the more I look at these things, the harder they look. So I can't wait to get a pair, man. And rock it to the gym, man. Start hooping in these things, man. So shout out to Jaylen, man. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, I just think this is exactly what I've been talking about. When I poo-poo, when I poo-poo some of the stuff, not necessarily poo-poo, but my whole thing is it going to truly is it going to do what they say it's going to do? Mm-hmm. So I'm not trying to take anything away from T.I., who wants to build apartment buildings. Good. Like, people who, guys who are hard up, they get released from prison. They don't really have rights. They don't really have a direction to go. They're kind of rudderless, don't really have money. They need a roof over their head that won't break the bank. That's a good thing.
Mhm.
But my point is, to what end? Like, you want to be able to keep the momentum going. It's not enough that you provide something like housing or general education. You need to position people these days to not be employees, in my opinion, or at least lowly employees. And you can put somebody in an apartment or give them housing, but if they have to go clock in at Walmart every day, to me, it didn't really do anything. And then, like, if you think about the advent of things like recidivism,
Mhm.
there's a high likelihood that someone in that circumstance is going to end up back in the system, because they're going to survey the landscape and they're going to say, this isn't enough. I'm going to go back to doing what I was doing, because at least that gave me the chance to better my circumstance and better my situation. So this type of initiative creates inroads for people to not be trapped up in that hamster wheel.
Mhm.
And look, I'm an employee. I'm not trying to, I speak. This is on behalf of the bigger picture.
Correct.
And one thing about Jaylen Brown, now, his contract money, he don't own all of that. He
Mhm.
has to play and perform.
Correct.
Not all of that is guaranteed.
Mm.
A hefty chunk of it is, but he don't have that. Some of that is the Celtics.
Mhm.
So if he runs afoul in any kind of way, the Celtics can retain some of that. But anything else that he does, not Celtics related, based upon what we've read here, he owns all of that.
Mhm.
So even if he commits a faux pas or does or says something that people don't like,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily going to stop his momentum, because none of his off the court ventures are particularly owned by anybody other than himself.
Correct.
So that's the great advantageous position that he finds himself in by doing it in the way that he's doing it.
Mhm.
Furthermore, generally speaking, he's a disruptor. It's no different than Ice Cube with Big Three. Ice Cube is getting a lot of resistance from the NBA because of what he's trying to do with Big Three.
Mhm.
And this happens to anybody who is a disruptor in any business.
Mhm.
Like him or not, Elon Musk is a disruptor.
Mhm.
These car manufacturers can't stand him because of the way that he is positioning himself and how he chooses to run Tesla Motors. He is a disruptor in the marketplace. Whenever you are a disruptor in the marketplace, you are going to get resistance. And this screams disruption.
Yeah.
What Jaylen Brown is doing right now screams disruption, because Nike and Adidas and Puma and Reebok don't want athletes making their own shoe.
Correct.
They want athletes to sign with them
Mhm.
so that they own their athlete's shoe and they just put the athlete's name on it.
Yep.
That's what they want. And they also want people to go to Dick's and go to wherever, Academy and Nike and Foot Locker and wherever else you buy shoes. They want people to go and buy Adidas and Nike. They don't want to go and buy 741s,
Mhm.
because they ain't getting the money for that. Jaylen Brown is. So he's a disruptor all the way around. And I think the model for what it is that he is trying to do is something that more people in his position should follow, because that's really how you help your people. A lot of these people out here talk about how they want to help the community. And I believe that their heart is in the right place, but I think that the way that they go about doing it doesn't actually solve that. I think it just creates more employees. Personally, that's what I think. And I think that this is a way in which you can create less employees and create more people who are the arbiters of their own destiny. And at the end of the day, that is the most important thing.
Yeah, man. So we'll see how this pans out. He's got my support. Until he does something, sideways when it comes to my value system. I'm supporting this man. And he needs everybody's support that stands for something. And if you stand for something, man, you should be appreciating what this guy's doing. And so yeah, man, I'm with this 1,000,000%, man. I can't believe it. I've seen people start their own shoes before, so I mentioned that before. But when you mentioned the other initiatives that he's got going, yeah, man, this is beautiful stuff, man. So shout out to Jaylen, man. I can't wait to see how this grows, and I'll definitely be supporting financially and otherwise whenever it comes to whatever he's got going.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just think that he's a leader. Like he's one of the, I'm not a hero worshiper. I'm the first person to bang
Yeah.
on what these athletes and these entertainers do. So for me to be on board with something that somebody is doing, it speaks volumes in terms of how I feel about the ideal behind it. And down here in South Florida, everybody worships the ground that Dwayne Wade walks on, and Dwayne Wade ain't doing nothing like this. And this is the kind of stuff that you need to do. Like, yeah, donate to charities, be philanthropic, give money back. That's great. But how do you remove people from systemic inequality of the economic and class variety? I'm not necessarily talking about race. This is the way that you do that. So I think more people need to follow his leadership, honestly.
Yep. Hey, and so let us know down in the comment section, guys. Would you guys be buying a pair of 741s? I'm getting about 3 of them myself. So let us know down in the comment section. And do you guys really support this, or you feel like he's this is like, I don't know, some type of dream that may not actually take flight? Me personally, I think this is going to be a success. So let us know down in the comment section. Love to hear it.
Yeah, I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic.
Same
Shouts
here.
out to Jaylen Brown, man. Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, and somewhere along the same vein, we have comments made by Will.i.am, who is an investor and a seer into the future in his own right. So Will.i.am believes that the existential threat of artificial intelligence is something that true creators should not be concerned with, because if you're a true creative, you have nothing to fear when it comes to AI. Embrace it, because AI cannot replace true creatives. So this says Will.i.am believes true creatives who are not chasing the algorithm will fare well with the rise of artificial intelligence. Will.i.am believes creators will continue to stand the test of times in the midst of artificial intelligence. The rapper and singer-songwriter has been ahead of the curve of technology for quite some time. As Afrotech previously reported, he was an early investor in Beats Electronics and even incorporated their technology in the Black Eyed Peas' Boom Boom Pow music video 15 years ago. He reportedly made a fortune from the investment when Apple acquired Beats Electronics and Beats Music for an amount nearing $3 billion. Will.i.am's interests in technology have only widened since then. He invested in machine learning startup Inflection AI, and through a private investment group, he has invested in additional companies empowered by AI, such as Udio, Anthropic, OpenAI, which I've heard of OpenAI, and Runaway. He is also leading change through his own company, FYI, which stands for Focus Your Ideas. As Afrotech previously reported, it is an AI-driven collaboration platform created alongside Sunil Reddy, who also serves as CTO. It caters to the creator economy and is empowering them further by helping them streamline storyboarding, messaging, and video calls to high-quality file sharing and scheduling. Its website listed. Beyond its conventions, he believes the platform is necessary as a result of the lack of representation in the space as it pertains to launching communication tools. It's very rare that, especially in the AI space now, that people that come from the projects or from communities that reflect those types of conditions of living, we don't build communication tools. And to let folks in the community know that, we should be competing in this space. For every Amazon, there should be our version of that. For every WhatsApp, there should be our version of that. So what we're trying to do is, inspire, mentor, and connect creative to strategy, connect creative to organization, to knowledge, connect creative to materialization with our tools and intent, and all the while keep everybody's data and assets safe with our elliptical curve cryptography methodologies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Will.i.am also hopes AI will spark a creative bug among other artists. He believes AI has the power to help them formalize their ideas quicker, but he does not think that the technology could be a threat to those who are but he does not think that the technology could be a threat to those who are chasing the algorithm. Get your skills up, play, dance, sing. And I can't say right now we're being pushed creatively because we're chasing algorithms. Where humans are the creative industry is mimicking algorithmic recipes for attention, he said. And what used to be 5 minutes is now 15 seconds of hyper duplication. We have awesome ass effing musicians and shit doing wild ass shit in the 70s and 60s and 50s. That's true innovation, true imagination expressed, true expression. So if you're going to chase algorithms, AI is going to do a better job understanding the algorithm. From his viewpoint, the true creatives, hyper creatives, ideators, I'm not sure I've heard that word, dreamers, innovators, and imagineers will be in good standing in the rise of AI. They're going to be all right because they're going to see this as a way to materialize ideas quicker and, more importantly, the ability to be a part of the design of tomorrow. So, yeah, that key sentence up there. Um, where is it? True imagination expressed, true expression. So, if you're going to chase algorithms, AI is going to do a better job of understanding the algorithm. So here's a brief clip of his appearance at InvestFest, or I believe it's InvestFest. Yeah, this is InvestFest.
I would encourage parents, aunties, uncles, if you got 9-year-old kids, encourage them to take an interest in robotics. They like Roblox anyway. Like they like the iPad anyway. Like encourage them, like, yo, you could create software for this shit. Like you can create companies. You could grow up to like, we got to push our youth to want to compete. What's wrong with trying to compete with Google? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with trying to compete with WhatsApp and Facebook. The worst is going to happen is you're going to come close. And coming close to $1 trillion companies is pretty fucking awesome if you ask me.
Earners, get more business, culture, investing, and entertainment tips by listening to...
Damn. All right, there you go. So, what do you make of Will.i.am's comments about creatives chasing the algorithm and how, as long as you're not chasing the algorithm, you are not going to be fazed by AI?
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Never quite heard it in those terms, but more or less it was a floating thought in my brain, and I agree. I concur with that. I think the way that I looked at it was that AI, the only thing it can do is mimic. It doesn't create, it mimics. So if there is a pool of stuff out there, it can grab all of that stuff from the pool and then make its own, but it can't create its own. And so, and even if it is creating something that somebody else didn't create, it still had to pull from a pool of things that were already created. So it's still at that point not really a creator. So the way I always looked at it is that it was a sauce replicator. And one thing about humans that have sauce, you can't mimic that. So I always consider myself somebody that has its own sauce. Not to be confused with Santana, but but I got my own juice over here, man. And even if you duplicate my recipe, what I did in order to generate that formula, I can do that again. And you can't duplicate that sauce. So that's pretty much what he's getting at, in the sense that if you are a true creative, just make stuff that's creative, still be in your bag, and AI will have to follow. But from there, you still have the intellectual property, the whatever that's going to keep you safe in this day and age of mimicking and duplication. And especially when it comes to that algorithm, yeah, you're not going to out algorithm a machine. You're just not going to be able to do that. So that's the part about this that I did think about as in the deep recesses of my brain, but I didn't put it in the forefront like that. But that's a good way of putting it. That nah, man, you can't you can't try to algorithm a robot. You mean that's now you're playing the robots game. So, but one thing the robot can't do is play you on your home field. And so if you are a true creative, a true musician, a true artist, a true creator, then yeah, they would have to get on your page at one point. But so basically, in a nutshell, the robots will always be playing catch up to you. So if you have an idea, if you got something popping, if you dig deep enough within yourself, you could still have yourself a nice future. But you have to, not be like the robots. And so, yeah, man. So there's a lot of bots out here. And that was before AI. You know what I'm saying? There was a lot of people stealing people's flows, stealing people's art designs, way before AI was a thing. And so even in those days, you would hear about the person that stole somebody else's flow before you even heard of the real person that created it. And so so the same thing will still be happening right now with all these algorithms and AIs. But if you are that true creative, you should not be worried because they have to get on your page at some point. So, but to tap into the Jaylen Brown situation with this is once you come up with that idea, though, you're going to have to, you know what I'm saying, trademark it, do whatever it is. So, whenever it is getting duplicated or what have you, you can get the residual income off of that. So don't just create it and leave it to the internet to steal it. Because one thing that these AIs are hella good at is scraping the internet. And if you just leave it out there for free, they will eat it up and then take it before you do. So what are your thoughts, man, on Sir Will.i.am dropping some tech bombs on us, telling us that, yeah, man, that if you're a true creative, you don't need to fear AI. Do you agree, sir?
Yeah, it was. I got tripped up reading all of that.
Boy.
Yeah, I agree with him. In other words, the cream always rises to the crop. I remember when the whole Hollywood writers and actors strike was going on. One of the biggest aspects of that negotiation process was how to adequately address AI to protect people who are the creatives. And you've lamented the state of art and entertainment these days is just being progressively worse than it used to be. Boy. Movies are worse than they used to be. Music is worse than they used to be. Movie scripts are worse. That's why there's so many remakes and rehashes. Originality and creativity seems to be almost completely dried up. Where are the original scripts? Where are the original ideas? Where are the original concepts? I think that ongoing conversation with those people when they were striking, trying to figure out the best way to address AI to protect these people, had to do with the fact that a lot of what they do is threatened by AI because it's not that good.
Yeah.
So just thinking about movies for a second. AI, I don't care how advanced AI gets, AI technology cannot write another Godfather script. I don't think AI can write Goodfellas. I don't think AI could write, what are some other classics? I don't think AI could write the script to Inception. I don't think AI could write Star Wars. I don't think AI can do that. But AI could probably write the script for Catwoman. Yeah. And AI can probably write the script for Pixels or any of these other bad Adam Sandler movies.
AI probably did write
any of these other bad Adam Sandler movies that have come out within the last 10 to 15 years. AI can probably write that stuff. I'm not trying to single out Adam Sandler, but those movies aren't good. I'm sorry. Those movies are not good, people. Catwoman, Mortal Kombat, Annihilation. Think of any of these bad movies that have come out. AI can probably write that. AI could probably write that. And I agree with you when you talk about the deterioration of art overall, specifically when it comes to entertainment. Where's the originality? You know, they were playing around. They were playing around with the idea of making 007 a woman. Why? You don't have enough talented people in Hollywood who can create original script for a female secret agent who kicks ass. You got to make her double. You got to make a woman 007. That's ridiculous. But when you are dealing with a bereftness of originality and true creativity and true talent, all you're going to get is rehashes and remakes and copycats and BS. Yep. And when that becomes the normality, then AI does pose a threat to what you're doing. So at that point, go ahead and do whatever you got to do. Mobilize and figure out a way to protect yourself against it, because this existential crisis is a direct threat to you because you're being exposed for your overall lack of talent. Especially when you juxtapose it to previous eras and generations when there was no technology or AI, people was just writing fly shit all day, every day.
Yep.
So he's absolutely correct. If you got the sauce, if you are able to write good stuff, AI poses no threat to you. All it can do is serve as a tool to help you do what you do maybe more efficiently. Maybe you can do what you do faster, or do what you do, you know, in a more collaborative effort where you can fine tune some of the rough edges, but you can never be replaced if what you're doing has a soul and you're actually creating things that stand for something, and it isn't just a rehash or a remake or a guy wearing a dress.
Hey, man.
So he's completely 100% right. You know, AI is a problem for, I believe AI's true purpose is to replace humans in the workforce.
Yes.
That's what I think AI's true purpose is.
Yes.
Is to get rid of as many workers as possible so that those at the top can retain as much of the revenue as possible. That is AI's true purpose. But if you correlate that with the arts conversation, it pretty much is the same. You can replace workers because what do? Mundanely do something that is completely replicatable. Just like a lot of these writers out here who create these movies and write these movie scripts that are largely mundane and completely replicatable. So AI gets rid of them just like it gets rid of the cashier at Walmart or Publix.
Yep.
It gets rid of them just like it's the same dynamic. So yeah, if you're doing something that has true value and you're writing something that can't be replicated, AI can only help you in your pursuit of that creation. It will not replace you because AI can't replace true creation. I agree with him 100%.
Correct, man. And you know, and to bring, to touch on your point about movies and stuff, I mean, if anybody watch anything on Amazon Prime or Netflix especially, I mean, you can't tell me all those scripts aren't AI. I think half of those actors are AI. I mean, that stuff is it's the same rinse and repeat garbage. So, yeah, of course that can be replaced. And, yeah, man, I agree with you. That's a good way of putting it, man. Hollywood, because I think a lot of people witness that, a lot of people watch content, movies and stuff like that. And there is a hunger, a thirst for creativity, in that department. When, what's that? Jordan Peele, when he made Get Out, it damn near set the world on fire. But I saw bits and pieces of it. I wasn't blown away, but it was different, and that's what the market needed. It was something that was different, written different, directed different, and it shook up a lot of stuff. And then you saw the mimickers come out and trying to mimic and duplicate. And that's pretty much the name of the game. So if you have your own secret blend barbecue sauce that you've been working on, trust, man, the world needs it and they want it. And but like I said, man, you got to have your ducks in a row out here right now, because again, the internet is, if you put it on the internet, it's most likely gone. So you're going to have your stuff lined up. It's kind of like back in the day, man, with patents. you know, a lot of inventors out there that are credited for having hundreds of inventions and stuff, they were just stealing other people's ideas and getting it patent first. And those creators that were creating those things, you never know their names, you know, but you know the patenter's name, and he gets credit, and he's the one written in history books and all of this other stuff. So it's pretty much the same thing, man, when it comes to if there is something out there that you're working on or creating or building. You know, keep it close to the vest, man, and make sure your documentation is correct. Because if, you know, if it gets stolen, you know, and you've been working on this, you know, secret blend barbecue sauce for the last 5-6 years, and you shelved it for a little bit. Next thing you know, you see somebody out there with the same recipe. You know, you can only say like, hey, man, you know how much it took me to make this? And it's like, hey, man, when you getting all this stuff lined up, make sure you take care of your paperwork. Because, you know, I don't trust this AI out here. I don't trust all of these. Hey, would you like for me to view all the stuff in your phone? Hey, you know, will you accept these cookies? Hey, man, you know what I'm saying? Click yes. Do you acknowledge to this? I don't know what people are signing up for nowadays. You know what I'm saying? And hell, man, people are complaining about, the 2K people, for instance. Hey, man, I've been spending all this money, you know, building this player, and it's gone. You know, or I put all my stuff on this platform, and you know, they just took it off the platform. And it's like, look, and they're mad with the platform. And it's like, you signed a terms and agreement when you signed up, and you just hit acknowledge. You skipped all of that. So just be mindful if you do have something out there. This would be my warning to the creators, is that if you do have something out there and you decide to use AI and upload it to OpenAI has it now. So be mindful with this new game that's going on out here with these AI generated things or whatever. Just get your ideas out there and get them patented or whatever you need to do, trademark, copywritten, what have you, man. Because I don't personally trust all of this stuff floating around out here, because you never know. And, you know, there might be some lawsuit later on in the future where somebody's trying to sue whatever one of these AI companies because they stole their intellectual property. But they said, well, you built your whole thing using our platform. Right. So technically we own it. So, you know, Will.i.am, he's talking through one side. But I would also say that, you know, make sure you take care of your property. And if you've been building that barbecue sauce for the last 5-10 years, make sure you keep it close to the vest until you have it legally protected. But other than that, man, yeah, break the internet with whatever you got going on, man. The world needs it, because right now, as you mentioned, bro, there is a dearth in creativity out there right now.
Yeah, it's rough. Collateral, Heat. I'm trying to remember some of my favorite movies off the top of my head. Collateral, Heat, Pulp Fiction. Like, there's no AI technology that's going to write any of those movies. No. So from that standpoint, a person like Quentin Tarantino is protected from AI because no one can duplicate what he does.
Correct.
Which is why it takes him like 10 years to do a movie, because you can't just churn. True creativity takes time to incubate. You don't just churn that stuff out like hotcakes at IHOP. But a lot of these bad movies, they come out every year. Like you know, they're coming out like they're being wheeled out on an assembly line.
Yes.
You know, so AI is a threat to that. AI is a threat to easily digestible, non-creative, you know, cutting room floor, simple stuff. That's what it's a threat to in every industry, whether it's, I don't care if it's movies, music, retail. If what you do truly can be done by a robot, it will be at some point. So I hear what he is saying, and I don't know, I co-sign that. I co-sign that.
Yeah. Hey, so let us know down in the comment section, guys. Do you agree with Will.i.am? Do you feel as though that true creatives don't need to fear AI, or do you feel AI is actually doomsday, and it and then true creatives will never have a space. I tend to agree and think that creatives do have a space, but let us know down in the comment section. Would love to hear your thoughts before
Terminator 1 and Terminator 2.
Yeah,
ain't
man,
nobody right. Ain't no AI writing no scripts, man.
Nah.
Shouts out to Will.i.am.
Yeah, screw.
Now we're going to talk about comments made by Jermaine Dupri, who says that R&B is not what it used to be. R&B is not at its true essence. It used to be better back in the 90s, or more specifically, when those artists came from the church. He thinks modern R&B singers just can't hold a candle to what happened with the 90s. So we'll go ahead and give our 2 cents on what JD, Mr. So Def himself has to say about the state of R&B music. So this says Jermaine Dupri believes modern R&B singers can't compete with the 90s. Jermaine Dupri says that a lack of church going is causing modern R&B singers to pale in comparison to those of the 90s. He explained his argument during a recent live stream on Instagram, using several icons of the genre as examples. Young Black youth of today do not go to church, and they don't have that church band grooming, he said. So when you listen to that soul, the soul that you think is soul is an added piece of information. If you're going to make these records, it's hard to beat Jodeci when you don't have that element. Anthony Hamilton comes from the church. You not going to get that shit that's in his voice. You ain't just getting that from being on the internet. When Live Beat shared the comments, many fans agreed with Dupri's explanation. Happy we got our kids in church and they are getting better with singing and their instruments. One user wrote, another added, agree. I was just jamming to Anthony Hamilton earlier, and that man sings. Check out his comments on the state of R&B below. Elsewhere during the Instagram live stream, Dupri remarked that R. Kelly is the R in R&B. I'm not here to talk about none of that BS that he's involved with, but he is the R in R&B hands down. He said the state of R&B has been a hotly debated topic in recent years, with Diddy, Tank, Harry Spears, Joe Budden, and many more making headlines for weighing in. So here is a little bit of what JD was talking about during that live stream.
Young Black youth of today do not go to church, and they don't have that church band grooming. Like B. Cox came from the church, right?
Right.
Jodeci comes from church. Like, so when you listen to that soul, that soul that you think is soul, that's
coming from over there.
It's an added piece of information that if you're gonna make these records, it's hard to beat Jodeci when you don't have that element.
You don't have,
you know what I mean? You don't have
that soul. You don't have that.
That's an element. So it's like when people be saying, "Yo, music ain't the way it used to be." Like I just posted my new Anthony Hamilton record. Is coming out October 4th. Queen, right?
Yeah.
Anthony Hamilton comes from the church.
Like
you're not gonna get that's in his voice. Yeah. You ain't just getting that from being on the internet. That ain't getting ready to happen.
All right, so what do you think about that?
I mean, I agree. I mean, I don't think anybody objectively that was around for 90s R&B would disagree with what he just said. And I think church folks will have a problem with it, with this statement in there, just using the church as a farming system to make secular music. But I mean, I agree with his overall notion. I mean, you can go back to the 70s, 80s. They were pulling people out the church. Whitney Houston came out the church. So I mean, everybody for the most part that was singing back in the day, they used to sing in a choir, and when you're in a church and you're singing in a choir and you're doing all that stuff, yeah, man, that is a definite training ground, if you will, for vocals, rhythm, And as he mentioned, the soul aspect, because the times that I did go to church, my favorite part was the singing, and the raising of the energy, man. Because it's something about some of those people that's in church. I mean, there's still people in church now, and the person that I was listening to, man, that guy could sing, man, and he was belting it out there. And if he had an album, people would listen to it. And so I know what he's getting at from that element of, hey, man, these vocals are raising emotions. So, and that comes, that does come from in the church. So, I tend to agree with that. But but I would say that that's not just the only thing. Because 90s rap was better. Those guys weren't in the church. They weren't in the church. There's a missing element of creativity. There's a missing element of due diligence, attention to detail, that is missing in all art right now, when it comes to either hip hop or what they're calling R&B right now, because R&B has slowly but surely devolved into hip hop light.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, like I'm sitting here listening to the girls that people are that the females are on now, and I'm sitting here listening to what she's saying, and she's talking about heartbreak, emotions, and all the typical stuff, but she's basically rapping, and there's no real vocals there. And even for the people that are considered soulful, that are supposed to be singing, they got this whiny inflection in the throat where it's not coming from the diaphragm, it's not coming from the gut, it's coming from it's that Drake nasally thing, and it's like, where's the vocals at nowadays? Who's singing right now that's damn near about to put a tear in my eye? I'm not hearing it. And I don't think that's just solely coming from missing from the church thing. I think it's just an overall lack of detail. And the people that are growing up, the people that are on now, grew up on this microwave degenerate form of R&B when in the early 2000s. So 90s R&B holds a special place for me and my sister. We love that stuff. And as good as 90s R&B was, it still pales in comparison with what was going on in the 80s and 70s. So to be honest, there's been a slow degradation of the art form, if you ask me. And I think 90s was just the I don't want to say the peak of it, but I think that was, well, I guess it was the peak because the decline started to happen, if you want to look at a graph. But man, I really think that that he has a point in the sense that today's rhythm and blues, if you even want to call it that, it can't really even hold a candle to the 90s. Forget about the 80s and 70s. It's not even close. But what are your thoughts on what Jermaine Dupri had to say? Do you agree with him that today's modern R&B is lacking that soul element? It's lacking that authenticity. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I never thought about. I've always thought that R&B as a genre has all but eradicated, but I didn't know. I didn't personally chart that to people being in or out of the church. So that's an angle of it that I'd never thought about. I don't know how valid that is. Although if you do mention the R&B singers of previous eras, there is a commonality amongst them that they did start in the church. So you can't deny that, but I just never thought of it that way. But I mean, to say that, it does, compared to the 90s, it isn't what it is. Like I've honestly, for the last few years, I've been operating under the assumption that there is no such thing as R&B anymore.
Yeah, me too.
Personally, like I just kind of feel like it's all been subsumed into hip hop. Like hip hop has just become this large blubbery mass. It's this it's this super genre where they've just sort of everything has just been enveloped into it. I can't, like there's a few people like, I mean, you got people like Usher who are still doing their thing. Usher's still doing his thing, but he's kind of not is definitely not Usher from late 90s, early 2000s.
No.
So I'm not exactly sure what constitutes R&B. Like, is SZA, is that R&B? Like, I genuinely don't know. I don't know. And like the ones who kind of the ones who, if you squint, maybe that's R&B. It's like they're like you said, like some of them, it's like, are you rapping or singing, or you're doing a bit of both? It's like a hybrid rap singing thing. I don't know what to call it. Like there's one of the newer people out now that's kind of popular, Blast. I gave his album a chance, and he's like a hybrid rapper singer guy. Personally, I don't call that R&B unless that's now what we're calling R&B. Like, unless we're just redefining R&B and calling that R&B, I don't call that R&B. And there's a couple of other people who are trying to hold it down, like Khalid. But even he ventures into rap singing. I need to come up with a name for that, like ringing rap singing at the same time. 6 black people like this. I mentioned Blast. Like, I don't know what you call them, because it's like they're rapping and singing at the same time.
Right.
So I don't even really know what R&B is anymore. Like I said, I've always been operating under the assumption that it doesn't exist anymore. And I think what you're trying to allude to when you talk about like lack of creativity and just trying to properly articulate what has happened to R&B, I think you're kind of dancing around, like, it's like a cultural thing. I think like we've just become hip hop or bust. And I think in lieu of becoming, like, I think back when I was growing up, I would say R&B was just as synonymous as like hip hop rapping when it comes to like cultural expression within the community. They both kind of carried the torch, the hand in hand. It was like they were kind of, collaborative entities when it comes to when it comes to song and dance, along with blues and rock and roll from back in the day, and country music, of like the cultural expression of the community. But I think as hip hop became commercialized and corporatized, we just became hip hop or bust. And so I kind of feel like in lieu of that, in the process, R&B just got rolled into hip hop. And so it's all just this weird hybrid form of rapping. And some of it is traditional rapping, and some of it is this harmonizing rap. But none of it to me sounds like hip hop, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. But like when I listen to a lot of these, because I try to give the newer stuff a chance. I genuinely do. And people like Blast, he gets played up a lot. So I listen to his stuff. His last album that came out, it was a lot of singing, rapping to me, but nothing that I would necessarily categorize as R&B. But I'm pretty sure a lot of new school people will tell me that that is R&B now. So I just have to train my brain to think about R&B in a completely different capacity, because the older form of R&B, the SWV and the Monica and the Brandy and the Whitney Houston and the Tank and the LSG and the Johnny Gill, Gerald Levert, that form of R&B has evolved into 6 Black and Blast and Khalid. And so I guess maybe I need to train my brain on thinking differently about what constitutes R&B, because when I hear this stuff now, to me it just sounds like a hybrid form of rapping and singing. And so from that standpoint, I've just been operating under the assumption that R&B really doesn't exist anymore, outside of a few outliers here or there.
Right.
But for the most part, I kind of feel like it just doesn't even exist.
No, well said, man. And I didn't have a problem with the hip hop. I didn't mind with the hip hop R&B merger when it was initially happening, because I felt like that was like, you know what I'm saying? It was like pad thai. You know what I'm saying? It was fusion. So I was like, all right, man, I can deal with some of this fusion, because, you know, Nate Dogg was my guy, man. So, you know, rest in peace, Nate Dogg, man. But he was singing, but he was rapping too. But you know, because that wasn't R&B, but he was singing.
Yeah.
And the hooks was crazy. And his album, man, Music and Me, I don't know if you heard it, man. I love that album, bro. He's talking about some degenerate stuff, man, in a few of those songs. But some of them is like, hey, man, he talking about some real stuff, man. So so Nate Dogg was like, for me, was like, hey, man, we need more of this. I like this. You know, he's R&B, but it's like a hip hop take to it. So I can dig it. So I felt like definitely there was like a need for it, I would say. But don't abandon, you know, the totals, escapes, and SWVs. Like, don't abandon that. Because I still listen to some of that stuff, bro. You know, to this day, I have my R&B phases, and I'll just listen to 90s stuff and listen to some of those songs, man. Because I don't know, there's something about it, you know, the harmony and all of that stuff, man. And I guess it takes me back some nostalgia too, man. But it go hard. And so I feel like we need that. And so, yeah, I agree with you, bro. I feel like everything merged into that, you know, into the Nate Dogg, T-Pain,
Future.
Yeah.
I feel when I listen to I keep bringing him up, but when I listen to Blast, for example, or somebody like that, Six Black, something like that. Or Party what's that guy's name? Don Toliver.
Don Toliver. He's the next one.
When I hear something like that, I really do think that that's like an offshoot of like Future.
Yeah.
You know, if like Future is like the epicenter of this weird amalgamation of singing and rapping, and now everything else is just branched off from that. You know. But I can't bring. I wouldn't call any of that R&B. Now, don't take that to mean that I'm saying it's not good. I'm just saying in terms of how you classify it.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe I'm too old. Maybe I was born in 1986, so I was used to R&B a particular kind of way. Like I said, I am pretty sure that a lot of the new school people, or a lot of these people who will tell me I'm out of touch because of some of my views on music, they'll probably just tell me that is R&B. It's just what it's evolved to. So it is, R&B's not dead. It's just now that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I feel. That's what I feel is happening. But from my standpoint, I just kind of say there is really no. It's not really here anymore. I don't think it's there. I think it's all just hip hop music. That's what I think it is.
I've never heard of this Blast character, so I'm gonna give this person a listen. But hey, guys,
his name is spelled BLXST, so it's not spelled with just so that you don't get tripped up. It's pronounced Blast, but it's an X, not an A.
So. Yeah, I'm gonna type it in like a grandpa and just actually spell Blast. But hey guys, please let me know. You know what I'm saying? If y'all stumble across this, please let me know, because I'm really looking for the person that's, you know, the Billie Holiday. You know, because y'all gonna tell me somebody. I know some of y'all gonna tell me these people singing. Okay, point me to the Billie Holiday, point me to the Aretha Franklin, point me to the Whitney Houston right now, please, because that's what I'm asking for. And I'm not asking for Blast. So, please, man, let me know, because I need music right now. You know, newer stuff. Because come on, we gotta represent, man. There's gonna be people, you know what I'm saying, 40, 50 years from now listening to this crap. And they're like, man, those people, they didn't have anything going on. So we need something that's going to be moving. I want something that's damn near going to bring a tear to my eye. Because there's certain Billie Holiday songs that'll get you in a different realm. Who was that other dude? Sam Cooke. Put you in a whole different realm.
It ain't gonna happen, man.
Nah, there's somebody out there doing it. Please point me in the direction. Please, man.
It's dead, bro. It ain't no more Gloria Gaynor, Shaka Khan. See, you going way back now.
Nah,
Yeah, it's gone, bro. It ain't
that's
Bobby Blue Bland, BB King.
come
All
on,
of
man.
that is yeah. I don't
Come on,
see
man.
it.
Bobby
I don't see
Womack.
it.
Like, give me something like that, because, and that's what my dad was saying, bro. Like, when I'm sitting here talking about some Jodeci, Jermaine Dupri sitting here talking about Jodeci, and my dad is sitting there laughing like, this got nothing on like Marvin Gaye. It's got nothing on none of this stuff. Like, what is this garbage? And I'm like, what you tripping? So please point me in the direction of some real soul music. I'm dying to hear it. Because and that's why I'm sharting all over it, because I haven't found those people. So if y'all know them, please let me know.
It ain't gonna happen. Curtis Mayfield ain't walking through that door.
Nah, come on, man. We need it.
Nah.
He
rolling over in his grave.
Damn, man.
It's not gonna happen, bro. I've given up on that. I'll just say it's all hip hop. That's where I relented to. I just say it's all hip hop. That's what it is.
Jeez, man. We gotta represent better.
Very interesting segment right here, talking about narcissism. An ongoing thread throughout this channel is the commentary that we have given with respect to the idea of the dangers of the normalization of narcissism in our society. Typically, we talk about it through the actions of some of our favorite celebrities and people in the public eye who are the personification of what it is that we are about to show here. But this is an interesting piece of video that you brought to my attention, and I said, oh man, this is good stuff here. So we have talked about this very thing throughout our tenure doing this for a long time, and this gives a more academic spin to what it is that we typically discuss with respect to narcissism. So check this out. This was an interview. I don't know the name of this guy's channel, The Diary of a CEO, but he did an interview with a guy by the name of let's see, Dr. Alok Kanoja. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Alec or Alok Kanoja, I think is how you would pronounce that. Talking about the psychosomatic impact of widespread narcissism. So check this out.
Are people becoming more narcissistic?
Yes.
They are?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what impact is that having?
I don't even know where to start. So I think it's affecting our relationships. It's affecting our happiness. It's affecting our professional ability. So this is what social media is doing. Social media and technology is externalizing our perception. So if I think about it, think about a couple thousand years ago, what was my mind focused on? So I would go out to hunt. I'm looking for an animal. I shoot a deer, and then I walk 3 hours back. So for some amount of time, my mind is paying attention to the external environment. Maybe I'm talking with the people that I'm hunting with, but what is there to say? I can't talk to them for 10 hours a day. There's no substance, there's no news, right? We're like this tribal community. So if you really look at the history of humanity, our perception has been internally focused at least 50% of the time. Literally what we are paying attention to is our own thoughts, our own feelings, the voices, the desires, the drives that come within us. What technology has done is whole-scale externalize our perception. Social media makes this even worse because now we're doom scrolling, we're looking at what other people are doing. So we are starting to exist outside of ourselves, right? So this is where what social media is doing is externalizing our perceptions, building our ego. We're so focused on the judgment of other people. I see the amount of body, subtle, low-level body dysmorphia that I see in young women is skyrocket. So social media is making us focused on our external appearance. We lose our connection to ourselves. And then once we lose our connection to ourselves, we lose the capacity to gain confidence.
Yep. It is I don't think there's any going back on that, sadly.
Come on, man.
Yeah, shouts out this comment. The third comment on this video crystallizes. I don't know how many times I've said this, but the third comment there says, "I've been saying this. They've normalized narcissistic traits."
Yes.
That is straight out of my mouth. I don't know how many times that I have said that narcissistic has become a normalized form of behavior.
Yes.
But what are your thoughts on that rather academic explanation of what has happened here with this narcissism?
I mean, it's hard to well, hold on, let's get a local echo action in the back. But it's hard to disagree with that, man. I don't know how anyone can. I mean, I alluded to in the Will.i.am situation where I was saying that, there's bots out here now, in human form. The internet is, taking it upon themselves to call these people NPCs. I agree, man. It's a lot of NPCs out there. And, for most of them, I don't think they were born that way. I think this was I think they were groomed and conditioned to be these people who think like how they were trained to think. These various forms of conditioning that I point to every week when it comes to media and entertainment and stuff. These people are the walking embodiment of it, and they can't see anything outside of it, to the point where the only thing they do is get online and compare and contrast and try to, be the Joneses. And no original thoughts. Everything is about them. And one thing that celebrity worship has done, because the celebrities for the first part of this is that they've been put on because they're narcissists. And they have these narcissistic tendencies, and people idolize these people. So whether they are recording artists, whether they're actors or politicians, most businessmen, the people that you brought up Elon Musk, that guy's narc all the way. So when we look at the people that are held up as idols in this society, they most likely fit the mold of a narcissist. And everybody, not everybody, most people are following in those footprints, and they don't have a thought of their own, and they are all about themselves. As he mentioned, all ego driven. The ego is just, people's egos are out of control at this point. It is at I would say an all-time high in world history. I don't think there's been this many self-centered people walking around. At least I don't think. Maybe there always was these people, but as far as I'm concerned, the self-centeredness is through the stratosphere, man. So I couldn't agree more. Social media definitely has accelerated this. But I would say through the advent of the television, that was another spike in narcissism in society. So yeah, man, I would say TV, media, it has definitely fed into people's narcissism, and they don't see anything wrong with it, because most people right now, even narcissists, are hollering that they're being done wrong by a narcissist. Yeah, it's crazy. And I've heard narcissistic people that I've already diagnosed. I'm like, this person's such a crazy person. And then they want to sit down and tell me that they got done wrong by a narcissist, which is probably true, man. It is dog eat dog out there. It is who's the biggest narc is going to win. And, I'll let you go in a second, but Western society has definitely rewarded the biggest narcissists. Reality TV has also done a number on these people's brain, and everybody think they're in their own damn reality show. And they trying to live like those people, talk like those people. And like I said, no original thought of their own. Those people are dangerous, and I avoid them. So whenever I do communicate with people, I see how down to earth they are, because it's hard to avoid some of these traits, man, when you're living here. Because trust me, bro, if I go somewhere in Africa, bro, they're gonna be like, this Negro's out of his mind. He always thinking about himself, man. Think about your people first, So you can't live in this society and not have traits of this. But there's definitely a spectrum. And for people out there that are demonstrating the dangerous forms of them, I definitely try to avoid those people, whether it be at work, the basketball court, or anywhere else in between, man. But what are your thoughts, man, on what's that? Dr. K? I don't know what his last name is, but what do you?
Yeah, I pronounce it Kanoja, but that might not be correct. But based on the spelling, yeah, Alok. It's either Alec or Alok. Kanoja, maybe Kanoja.
I'm gonna call him Alok. What are your thoughts, man, on Dr. Alok K, man, on his take on narcissism?
Not to be a narcissist,
but
I feel like a prophet. I remember
that was pretty narky.
I know, right? I remember back in 2011 when Instagram came out.
Yeah.
When I started to express my level of discomfort with what I saw back then as the potential societal ramification of such an application. And I was saying this back in 2011. It's why to this day I have 163 Instagram followers. Most of those because I got them by mistake, not because I was trying to follow a farm. But I have 100. Oh, my bad. I have 171 followers, and I'm following 75 accounts. The most astute Instagram aficionado would look at me like a mere peon because of those being my numbers on Instagram. But I've been uncomfortable with what kind of existential threat social media poses to humanity pretty much since Instagram came out. Because prior to Instagram, when it was all about Facebook and MySpace, the tone of the use of those applications was all about fostering communication amongst friends. But Instagram really proliferated what he calls externalization, and it put it on Front Street. And I'll just use it. I'll use relationships as an example. I remember all the way back in 2017 when we were doing videos for this channel using my cell phone in the kitchen of my apartment, and we did a topic discussing Ray Allen, because he had been exposed for trying to link up with an Instagram model who turned out was a dude trying to. It turned out that this Instagram model was a man catfishing him.
Yeah, I remember that.
And my general premise was Ray Allen, superstar NBA player, should never have to message women on social media to get women.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, you've reached a point of actualization on this earth to where you don't even have to really put in work to meet women. Like, women will be coming to you, much less you trying to DM chicks on Instagram. It's beneath you, Ray Allen. But I felt as though he stood for the normalization of a particular form of behavior, which rewarded women based solely off of the sake of their existence. And once I started to see that was taking place, I got off of Instagram. And I think I remember telling you about this. Like, it was in that moment that I got on my account and I got rid of every single, if I didn't know you personally, or if it wasn't an account that was actually giving me value, teaching me things, I unfollowed everything. So every Instagram model, I unfollowed all of them. Every fitness model, every single entity that I felt, to which I felt that following them was me perpetuating the modern narcissism and sexual marketplace, I purged my account of the follow of all those accounts, and I didn't look back. And to this day, I haven't looked back, because that was my form of personal protest. I wanted to not fuel what I thought was a problematic way that humans had begun to externalize their existence. And it has come to a head as far as I'm concerned. And the last thing that I'll say is I think it's interesting for us to glean our perceptions of the world based upon the types of environments that we most often frequent. For me personally, I sort of glean a lot of how the world works based on how often I attend like the gym, for example, because I go so much. So for anybody, like if you go to work and you're at work 5 times a day, you're there often enough that your interactions with people in that particular place is going to, in a roundabout way, inform you on how the world is currently operating. If you go to the grocery store 5 days a week, then your interactions and your experiences there can inform you. You know, if you know wherever you frequent most often, you can sort of gain a general idea of how the world is operating based upon your interactions in that particular place. Now, I go to the gym a lot, and I mentioned this before. What I'm seeing through my interactions with the gym, the rise in this influencer market, and these people who aren't really about that life, but still feel as though they can tap into this narcissism marketplace in order to earn a buck. And you know, about a week ago, there was this one girl who goes to my gym a lot. Like I've been a member at my gym, the current one that I go to now, for about maybe a little less than 2 years. And she's been going there for a long time. And, you know, about a couple of weeks ago, she came into the gym with a photography crew. She was in there, a crew. Yeah, it was 2 guys, and they came with a van with a setup.
A van?
Yeah, they had a van. Yeah. Because when I use the word crew, I really mean it. They had a whole crew. They had equipment, lighting equipment, extension cords, stands, tripods, the whole bit. And this girl brought her crew with her into this gym to film her in what I can only guess is her attempt to be a fitness influencer. Now, when I first walked into the gym, I thought that she was doing this on behalf of the gym. I thought that this was a gym sanctioned thing. Okay. You know, the gym is trying to market itself. Yeah, so they're going to find a cute girl that goes to the gym and ask her to do a little photo shoot thing, a little video thing. But another dude who's a member came up to me because we be talking and we were talking about it. And he was like, yeah, bro, she came in here to do this for her little thing. And I'm like, wait, hold up. So this isn't the gym doing this? This is her for her own private purposes? And he was like, yeah, bro, that's not a gym thing. She's doing that for her own personal purposes. And I said, wow, like it's really gotten to that point where she can't just bring in her little tripod and set up her iPhone and record videos of her working out. She's got a whole crew behind this. And my thing is, I've seen women who are fitness influencers. You can look at them and tell she's got the quads, the shoulders, the biceps. She looks like she's about this life. She looks like she can school me on fitness and nutrition and working out. This girl was just cute. Now, granted, she's cute with a nice body, but not a nice body in the sense that she works out, but a nice body in the sense that those are just her genetics. But what she was doing by recording these videos is she's trying to tap into that marketplace of I can get paid for being cute and pretty. And I can hide behind the idea that I'm doing this in the gym to work out. But really, this has nothing to do with exercise. And it has everything to do with me trying to become a social media influencer because I have a cute face and a nice enough body, which to me is the epitome of narcissism, because you're not actually trying to service the greater good of fitness and training. You're just trying to get off on the machine of the modern sexual marketplace and narcissism on the internet. And I'm seeing more and more of this kind of behavior happening is more and more commonplace. And it frightens me because it's cringe. Like, to me, I look at it and it's completely cringe. But the reason why I say that it's here to stay and it's not going back is because once people started to get paid for this, you can't reverse course. You can't flip this back. people are making money being this way. Once a person is being paid to be this way, you cannot convince them to you can't convince them that it's worth it to disincentivize their propensity for doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, that's the difference between previous generations and now. Like before, we could watch reality TV or we could watch TV shows, and even though TV was rotting our brains, there was a suspension of belief because it was television, but we can't actually replicate that via our own means. But now with the phones, it's entirely replicatable. And as long as they get 10,000, 12,000, 30,000 followers, and these brands start paying them to endorse products because they have so many followers, now you're being incentivized to be a narcissist because you're being paid for it. And so that's why you can't go back, because it's putting money in people's pockets. So this is here to stay. This guy broke it down academically by calling it like externalization, which, you know, I never knew what that meant before this. I had to look that up. So I think that he's broken it down along academic lines. But all you have to do is be a casual observer of the world, and you will see that this is quite common. It is narcissism, and it is being rewarded. People are being paid for it, and we won't be able to go back because it is what it is. It's here to stay. But individually, I say to anybody who is uncomfortable with this, listen to that little voice. It is okay. Get off, unplug. I purge my account. I barely go on Instagram. The disease of comparison is very real, and that's all you're going to do. The more time you spend on these platforms, spend more time learning practical skills, tangible skills. Only follow profiles that can actually teach you things. Don't follow people you know personally. Don't follow people that you don't know personally, but you still kind of know who they are, and you're following the moves that they make, and they're not actually teaching you anything. They're just showing you the life that you wish that you had. It leads to a poisonous mindset of constant comparison and contrasting that you'll never be able to get yourself out of. So don't think that there's a FOMO element to this, that you need to be a part of this apparatus. If you're not comfortable with it, get out of it and don't look back.
Yeah, man, I agree, bro. And yeah, it's basically narcissism is the overgrowth of the ego. It's wants to take on its cancerous form, and because you need your ego, that's why we have it. And basically, your ego is here to tell you that when you touch a stove, like, oh shit, stove hot, because if you don't have an ego, you're not going to self-preserve. So your ego is there for self-preservation, but you're supposed to balance that. And one thing that I've mentioned, and we've been talking about, is that media. What it has done is it told people that your ego is more than that, and that you should be self-absorbed, and that so it's not taking on the medicinal use. It is taking on the drug use of the ego, if you will. And the best way that I could put this, in layman's terms, I guess, is that in Egyptian mythology, they had this thing where you had to weigh your heart against a feather. Now, granted, everybody already knows your heart weighs more than a feather, but this was your judgment when you weigh it on a scale, after you transition. So now your judgment is, hey, now you have to weigh your heart against the feather. Now, if your heart is lighter than the feather, then you pass this test down here on earth and you get to transcend. Congratulations. But if your heart is heavier than a feather, then you're doomed to repeat this all over again. So what have it, right? So the point of that is that your ego takes on a lot of stuff. Now, if you believe all of this stuff that's going on down here in this matrix, all of this is external. So when him talking about externalization, guess what? Everything outside of the world of you, even including your body, is external. So if you sit there and you go, oh, my emotions, I'm a, me, I, you are taking on too much of this place. A lot of these church people like to talk about, being too worldly, and so being worldly or being of the world, being in the world, and believing it, then you're taking on all of these elements. And then so your heart is not lighter than a feather. And there's a lot of people walking around right now where their heart is heavier than a feather. So I bring up this point to say is that people think of ego as just as, oh, that person has an ego or this person has it. No, your ego is basically, this world is ego. And if you believe in this world, then you are, as the doctor was mentioning, an external person. So when people get into their phones and they start looking at what's going on in the world and they want to be like the people in the world, then you want to be an ego person. So turning these devices off, or as you mentioned, not having all of these, people that you're following and trying to, and not having those influences, it removes you from having a worldly mind. And if you don't have a worldly mind, chances are you have less narcissistic traits. Last thing I'll say is when the Buddhist people and stuff, and they're doing their meditation, or anybody that's doing meditation, they tell you to clear your mind of all thoughts. And thoughts are things, and things are worldly, and worldly is ego. So when you clear your mind of all thoughts, you're not thinking about anything. And and you're supposed to reach this level of Zen and peace, because like having peace of mind means that you're not worried about stuff. And one thing that all of these social media devices, TV shows, reality, and all this other stuff is getting you angst. Like he said in the thing, like, fear scrolling or whatever he mentioned. Like when you're constantly doing all of these things, you're constantly getting anxious thinking about the external world. And what people need to do is stop worrying about the world. Now we talk about the world here, but we talk about it in a way where we're trying to tell you not to be these external thinkers and think for yourself. And so in a nutshell, you got to drop the ego. You can't completely drop it because you need it. So there's a balance, but the people need to not be worried about what the Joneses are doing, not worried about what the world got going on per se, and think for yourself and clear your mind of all of these influences telling you to be a certain way, do a certain thing, or what have you. So, I mean, I agree with this, and that's why the most common person you talk to, like anywhere, like the girl that's doing all her stuff at the gym, if you talk to her, she's of the world, 100%, and that's all she thinks of is what's going on out there. So to go back to my analogy, her heart would be heavier than a feather. So I know I got work to do. I ain't saying around here my heart is lighter than one. So that's why I don't try to take on stuff that's going on in the world. Somebody, like every day when you out there driving in traffic, somebody cut you off, you wanting to get mad at that person is your ego saying, hey, So I look at these moments as a test to my ego of going, release it, bro. It's not a big deal. Somebody trying to get on my nerves, that's a test. Release it, bro, because you don't need to take this with you. So release it. And so any Buddhist person you talk to, any meditation guru or whatever would tell you to release these things and not internalize them. And what that doctor was mentioning is that these phones and all these things is telling you to internalize everything. So I know there's a lot there said, but this is a deep topic to me. But narcissism is running rampant because people are they have a misconception of what's going on right now, and they are being trained and conditioned to think like this. So I mentioned, I got my traits. If I go somewhere in Africa, if I just go hang out with a Buddhist monk, I'm sitting here talking all this stuff, I'm gonna have my narcissistic ways. Oh, they got me messed up, or I ain't sharing that. That's my soda. You know what I'm saying? So just my whole thing is, if you didn't think you were narcissistic or had narcissistic traits, look inward a little bit more. And if you do feel like somebody got you messed up, or you want to get mad when somebody cut you off in traffic, or somebody at work pissed you off, all of those things are life tests. And if you are that person that retaliates to that, then you're carrying narcissistic traits. Release it, let it go. There's bigger fish to fry, and it's not worth your, insanity, if you will. So yeah, man, I think this is awesome. I'm gonna go watch the full thing of Dr. K. because I've seen other CEO, the guy that podcast. I've seen his other stuff. He does good stuff. He asks good questions. So I'll be watching more of that. But yeah, man, think about what we've been saying here, guys, because narcissism is running rampant in this country. It's across the world, but really in America, man, it's nonsense.
Yeah, I kind of went on a bit of a ramble myself, but just to bring it back full circle, because I think I mentioned that within the context of relationships is how I can best explain how this affected me or my experiences with it. And it's very simple. Like, just to kind of tie a bow around that particular idea, as much as I appreciate people like Kevin Samuels, for example, I learned that for me, it was best to unfollow and not watch any more of his content. This is obviously, of course, before he, died. But I learned that for me, I need to stop consuming internet relationship content. So I unsubscribed from all of it. I unsubscribed from I stopped looking at Kevin Samuel videos. I unsubscribed from all of the dating and relationship podcasts on YouTube that I was consuming because it was creating a sense of myopathy within me, which is an unhealthy way of having your brain process information. And what I found myself doing was believing that the only way that I could even remotely be successful with women is if I made 6 figures a year and lived in a big house and drove a really nice car. See, that's that myopathy in you. That's that narcissism within you. That's that narcissism within you. So like I had to chill off of that stuff because it was creating an extreme sense of myopathy within me that wasn't.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just teasing, bro.
I know it was an unhealthy form of thinking because obviously not every woman is like that. Not every woman thinks that way. But if you're a guy and you consume enough of this stuff on a daily basis, it's going to cause you to think some pretty unsavory thought. And a lot of that content is derived from a narcissistic point of view. I mean, the very idea that you have to be at that kind of a level in order to baseline appeal to a woman in the first place comes from a narcissistic school of thought. So if you're consuming those narcissistic schools of thought on a regular enough basis, it's going to create unhealthy thinking habits within you. So that's just one of the various aspects of how to kind of tear away from that. And it's interesting because Red Pill Nation is real, which is why I've always ascribed to the idea that there are a lot of incels out there because there's just way too many of these guys who watch this stuff. There really is. And it's like, man, you just got to get off that stuff. You'll be better for it. You'll be much happier for it. But yeah, it really is. It's overwhelming, honestly. But I don't think it's going anywhere. I really don't. I think it's here to stay as a typical form of behavior because it's celebrated, and paid for. When you can earn money doing something, it's like giving a dog a treat. Like if a dog does something bad, like if every time a dog bites a person, you give the dog a treat, that dog is going to think that biting somebody is something to do. Because the dog knows it's going to be rewarded for biting people because you rewarded the dog by giving it treats every time it bit somebody in the ass, literally. That's what narcissism has become to me, something that people are rewarded for doing. So we can't go back because it is what it is. Like there are so many different layers of psychosis that are like laying on top of one another of people over time being rewarded for being this way, that now the best that we can do as a society is learn how to best manage it or just kind of coexist with it.
Yep. So, hey guys, if something's coming across your plate, man, whether it's stuff to make you angry, make you upset or whatever, just try to learn to release it, man. That's a good process. Don't bury it. Don't suppress it. Learn to release it in the sense of knowing where it's coming from and treat it as a test. because that's all life is. Because right now I'm being tested by the two narcissists downstairs. Good thing y'all can't hear this. All right, but I'm practicing what I'm preaching, bro, and releasing, and hopefully they can move. Damn it.
Yeah. And I say a good way to release it. Well, you can't release it because you're there physically. But in terms of being online, man, just unsubscribe. Don't unsubscribe here.
No.
Subscribe here. Subscribe here, but unsubscribe to all those other toxic channels, man.
Yeah,
they're not doing really good. Yeah,
because we're trying to help y'all not be toxic. So,
yeah. Those other channels are brain rot. Unsubscribe and unfollow. Trust me, you'll be much happier.
Oh man, wow stuff, man.
And now we have interesting comments made by David Banner, real quick, who feels as though the Black community turns on itself too much and is too quick to be hypercritical of itself when it does not have that same standard when it comes to other communities doing the same thing to us. Now, I don't know what was the impetus for this. I'm assuming that it's the Diddy stuff. I'm assuming it's the Diddy stuff, but I could be wrong on that. But be that as it may, these were interesting comments made by David Banner that we are going to close out this week's stream with, where he just kind of, delves into his point of view on ways that our community can do better when it comes to how we treat one another in the wake of things like accusations and all of that kind of stuff.
Is really, really upsetting to me. It's almost like we have been convinced anytime that it has something to do with our culture, it's almost like we salivate at the mouth to tear each other down. And what makes me upset is within our community, just about anybody that the world decides is wrong, if they were doing something wrong, we knew about it in our community for 10, 15 years and didn't do shit about it. And as soon as the rest of the world decides that they want to go on a witch hunt, then we try to beat them to the punch. And we go out of our way to tell jokes and laugh and criticize. That shit is sad. That shit is really, really sad. I don't know why we act like we winning or we act like we have a lot of heroes in our community and a lot of people that want to help us. Like, you ain't got to help them folks. And what's crazy is when somebody else does something outside of our community to us, we have to hoop and holler. They hardly ever get convicted. But we will hang each other. But what we don't understand is they're going to make sure that we pay. They're going to make sure we go to jail. They're going to make sure that we suffer for the rest of our life. They do cocaine and crack and be sexual deviants and then become superstars and superheroes. And we say nothing. We say nothing. The people on our dollar bills are ex-slave owners, and we don't say take them off a dollar bill or take those people who did those wrong things off of TV, but let one of us do something. I'm talking about do anything, and we would tear each other apart. I've been being more and more quiet because I don't think now is the time to be doing a whole bunch of talking. And everybody got a fucking opinion about everything, even shit that they know. If neuroscience becomes the hot topic tomorrow, every other podcast in our fucking community gonna have something to say about neuroscience, and the motherfuckers know they don't know nothing about neuroscience. I'm just here to give perspective, y'all. That's all. Do whatever the fuck you decide to do, but it ain't right, y'all. We don't do each other right. We don't have to be this way. We don't have to be this way. But if something happened, you want the same people that you criticize to help you or protect you or donate.
A picky princess. Right, so that's that. David Banner with some critical words for our community. We need to, do something different in terms of how we go about, um, going to bat or not going to bat for people, in the wake of allegations and stuff like that. So yeah, like I said, I'm speculating that this is in reference to Diddy, to Diddler, to Diddy Puff.
Yeah.
But that's my speculation. What do you make of his comments there?
I mean, first of all, I would like to start off by saying shout out to David Banner. Out of the entertainers out there, I'm doing my Stephen A. Smith right now. Out of the, but this is genuine though. But out of the entertainers that are out there, he's definitely on my on the side of he has my favor. He says a lot of good things out there, although he does say a lot of good things. I've always disagreed with this take. That's the first thing I always see. Not the first, but it's one of the more common things I see whenever Black people have a critique on other Black people, is that we're quick to tear each other down and crabs in a barrel and all of these things. But I think it's a low-hanging fruit argument. I think that's a talking point, and I don't think it's, all the way thought out. And this is my rationale behind that, because, when you observe other communities, if you see people have that take is because they spend all the time in our community. But if you observe what other communities do, they tear each other down all the time. And if you go listen to a podcast from another community, they talking about their people. And they tearing down this politician, tearing down that celebrity, having their critical takes on them, saying they need to go to jail, saying they need to whatever, XYZ. They do it to themselves, other communities. So this isn't unique to Black people. And I feel as though if somebody did do a perceived wrong, then they do need to be called out. And Black people only care about what Black people do because each community only cares about what their people do for the most part. So when Black people have a podcast show or a social media page, and they always talking about stuff, or if people following a social media page and it's Black people stuff, and somebody did something that they don't like, they have every reason or every right to have an opinion about it. So to automatically get into the thing of tearing people down, I never really got into that. Don't put yourself on them side of those things. If that's what's going on, and even if they didn't do anything wrong, or if they had an opinion, because we have opinions all day on this show, all right, and there's some people that don't like what we have to say. All right. But I'm not going to sit there and point the finger and call them a crab in a barrel. They just disagree with my take. So I've always thought that argument was low hanging fruit. Now there is genuine crab in the barrel mentalities. And that's when somebody literally tries to tear that person down for their own personal gain. But people having public discourse on the internet and having their opinion about something, I don't consider that tearing people down at all. So what am I supposed to do? Sit here and back this person, win, lose, or draw, when they were doing our people wrong in the community, for instance? When they were out there creating forms of media that cause degenerate behavior? I'm supposed to sit here and back this person when they are going through a situation? No, I'm going to throw them under the rug. Just like how they was throwing our people under the rug with their brainwashing material or whatever it may have been. So me personally, if I do have a take on somebody and I say, hey, you know what I'm saying? Chicken came home to roost for that person. That's not me tearing that person down, because in my opinion, if I'm saying that, then I felt like they were already tearing people down in the first place. So I don't know. So this whole crab in a barrel thing, I hate it. I can't stand it because that's the top comment I see liked. Oh, see, here our people go again, tearing each other down. Who's going to critique our people but us? And now, if there's other people outside of the community and they have their take because they're ignorant of our people, they can have that opinion. I don't care about that. But if there's people within our community that live in our house with us and somebody's doing something crazy, I'm going to have something to say about that. So I don't care what the neighbors across the street are doing. I don't care what anybody else got going on. You know what I'm saying? A town away. I'm caring about the people that I'm living in this house with, that people that I'm sharing a community with. And if somebody in my house is doing something crazy, I'm going to call it out. Because if we sit here and we turn a blind eye to this, that's how you promote generational trauma. So because that person's behavior is going to beget another toxic behavior in our community, in our house, and that we're going to turn a blind eye to that too because we see other people doing that. I don't care what they're doing in their house. I'm trying to get this house right. So I don't subscribe to that whole notion. So even though, you know what I'm saying, David Banner is one of my peoples, you know what I'm saying, that I would say that, hey, you know what I'm saying, a list of people that I say, hey man, go listen to what David Banner has to say about this or whatever. This is one thing that I go, I don't like this argument. You know what I'm saying? Because I can go on another rant about this, but I'll let you go, sir. What are your thoughts on what Sir David Banner has to say? Because it sounds like he was getting some of that baby oil action or something. What are your thoughts, man? I had to do it, bro.
Once again, I am speculating. I don't know what he's talking about. Full disclosure, I do not know for sure that he is talking about Diddy.
That was a joke, guys. That was a joke, guys.
My speculation is that he was talking about Diddy. Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what are people supposed to do? Not like, are we not supposed to hold each other accountable? I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand. What recourse do I have? You know, it's like, I mean, pretty much everything you said is spot on. I don't really have too much to add to that. It comes from the same place to me as like my persistent complaint with the music industry and the fact that no one seems to ever want to be critical of any of this music. Like, all you ever hear is that the next trash rapper that put out a trash piece of music is great and good, and you should go out and cop that, or you should go out and make sure you stream this. I'm not streaming this. It sucks. But if I say that it sucks, that means that I'm tearing my people down, or I'm not standing up for the community, or I'm not standing up to the music. No. Checks and balances for accountability is what keeps something at a particular standard and keeps it from deteriorating. So for me, holding, I don't know who he's talking about.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Whoever he's talking about, or whatever was the inspiration for this that he put out, being someone who decides to tear that person down, i.e. hold them accountable, is just that. It's just accountability. I'm not understanding what recourse that people of that particular school of thought would have someone such as myself do. So back in the 70s, when Frank Lucas was selling Blue Magic in the neighborhood, I guess I'm supposed to not say nothing because he gave out turkeys on Thanksgiving.
Right.
Like it's that kind of mindset. Like, I guess I should just be okay with this because once a year he handed out toys and turkeys. But for 25 years,
right,
he was killing people in my neighborhood.
Right.
So my thing is, you know, for someone in your position, if you check somebody, and I'm talking about you specifically, like if Dogon SS checks somebody, he's not just going to start checking somebody now because the allegations came out. He's probably been talking about that person for years.
Exactly.
This isn't anything new. He's probably been saying for years, hey man, there's something suspect about this situation. We need to look into this.
Exactly.
This, you know, this isn't a dynamic in which we just kind of pile upon it now because it becomes popular to do so. We've been talking about this for a long time. So, I mean, accountability just has to be had across the board. I don't understand the aversion to it. This isn't a difference of opinion based on surface level matter. This is like something that actually got people hurt.
Right.
You know, assuming that that's what he's talking about. Again, I don't know what he's talking about. And that's the thing. Without context for what it is that he's talking about, all I can really do is speculate.
Right.
I just find it oddly coincidental that as, you know, Sean Combs is going through all this, this is when he decides to put this out. Right. I don't know who else he could be talking about.
Right.
And my thing is, what do you want people to do? You know, wrong is wrong, and so what? And another thing, he's not actually accurate. When he talked about how other communities, you know, don't kind of turn a blind, because he mentioned something about a person does something and they get caught. And we've been knowing about it for 15 years, but ain't nobody
what the hell is that?
Everyone does that, okay? Because when Harvey Weinstein shit hit the fan, all of them people came out of the woodwork talking about how he's been doing this for 20 years.
Exactly.
But now the chickens have come home to roost.
Exactly.
So like you said, that's not unique. This happens.
Exactly.
It's not specifically endemic to one community or the other.
No.
So that to me was a fallacy that he put out there that's not accurate. But at the end of the day, no one should be able to shirk responsibility for any kind of wrongdoing. And I just don't know what you want people to do. What are people supposed to do? Just continue to not say anything? That's the part that I don't understand. What would you have people do, David Banner? What do you want people to do? Not say nothing? Or is there a different, more constructive way that people should go about instituting accountability? Like, what do you want people to do? Because sometimes wrong is just wrong and right is just right.
Thank you, bro.
I think it is convenient for him to do that because, like you said, a lot of people in our community are going to respond to that narrative of we always got to tear each other down. So you're going to get a lot of plays and spins and kudos and likes for saying that. But what would you have people do?
Exactly.
Like, if you don't like that, then how about you articulate your solution for how accountability should be served out within the community?
Exactly.
If you don't like it being done that way, then offer up some sort of a tangible way that it should be done. Because otherwise, I don't know what you expect people to do.
Yeah, I agree, bro. And again, and I'll just say this, you know, again, to reiterate, it's kind of one of those things of, you know, the fallacy of black on black crime. And it's the thing of, you know, people do crime to the people in their communities. So it's the same thing where it's proximity. It's where you're at. It's what you're familiar with. This is what goes on. And so, here we go, we're gonna tear each other down. And it's like, look, man, there's all kinds of things that you can look at and slice it that, you know, in a particular way. But you gotta have a broader scope. And, you know, I used to, you know, fall victim to some of these narrative talking points, but you got to look into stuff, man. And David Banner, you know what I'm saying? You know, he's a person that I always looked at as a well-researched person, and, you know, somebody that would criticize somebody that did wrong within our community, you know. But for him to say this, again, who are you talking about? You know, in what context? Because, you know, it's not like we do this all the time. You know, it's not happening every week, you know. So when the Bill Cosby thing came out, it's like, hey, man, if he's out here, you know what I'm saying, dropping pills on people, you know what I'm saying, we're going to let him have it.
Quaalude.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. If R. Kelly was out here really, you know what I'm saying, wilding out like how the people was talking about, we got to let him have it because we can't stand for this. So, you know what I'm saying? So there's certain things where it's like, look, like you said, is a good word to put it, man, accountability. And I can see if people were just going to task on these people in a sense where it's just like, hey, man, you know, that's not fair. You know, people, you know, and he might not have been talking about Diddy, you know, but for the people, but before all of this stuff, before we saw tape of Cassie, this same talking point was going on in our community. And there was very prominent people coming out and saying, hey, man, we don't know none of this stuff true.
and y'all out here just talking and throwing the black man under the bus. See, a black man got some power in this world, and y'all want to tear him down. See, y'all ain't nothing but crowds in the barrel. And then the tape with Cassie come out, and we have video proof of him doing whatever the hell, wearing a towel around his waist, leaving the freak off, trying to corral her back in so she can participate. So we saw video proof. Feds got video proof. And bro, trust and believe, there's gonna be stuff out there leaking, all right, showing some people out there. Now, people can speculate about all that stuff because I believe there are members of other communities that attended that stuff. Now, we might only see the black people, but that's a whole nother discussion. But the point is that our people were still doing some of that madness. The point is that Diddy Combs, me personally, I've always considered him one of the 4 horsemen of the black community that was tearing our people down systematically. And so I don't know if that Young Miami show is on Revolt, as you mentioned, but you know, stuff like that where Revolt is one of his platforms. Charlemagne got stuff on Revolt. You know, Charlemagne's one of the minions and stuff. I'm tearing down Charlemagne because he's critically acclaimed and got books and stuff like that. The guy's a clown. So I'm gonna call out people in my community that are clowns. So I'm sorry, man. That's not being a crab in a barrel. That's me wanting excellence for my people. And for the people that's up there, that's supposed to be prominent in our community, that's doing all this goofy stuff that kept us in this perpetual cycle, I'm gonna call those bastards out. And just like how we covered Jaylen Brown today and how he's doing the opposite of that. And he's actually creating stuff for our people to get out of these conditions. Those are the people you celebrate. Those are the people you protect, not the people out here that's got baby oil. So I'm sorry, Mr. Banner. I can't agree with none of this. All right. I didn't mean to raise up my chest at you like this, bro. I ain't trying to tear you down. All right. But hey, man, I didn't agree with this take, man. And this is one of my pet peeve takes. I'm tired of hearing it. So I had to get on my soapbox a little bit on that one.
Yeah, I don't know what he expects people to do. I don't understand it. It's like there's some kind of embargo on being critical. I don't know where this came from or why, you know. Yeah, I get heated with the music. I really do. Like, cause I beg and plead for there to be somebody with some integrity who's willing to come out and say that was bad music. But I'm looking around and no one seems to be willing to do so. And why? Because of what reason? Like, how can you possibly maintain a high standard for anything when there's no checks and balance for accountability? Like, that means you get to set a bar very low for performance because no one's going to check you on anything. So I can do something and produce at the lowest possible vibration that I want because I don't have to deal with people who are going to check me on it. No one's going to say anything. I can just operate into impunity. And at that point, there's no high standard for anything. There's no high standard for behavior. There's no high standard for making music. You know, however trivial you think the music example is, it's a microcosm for the rest of society. So like, I just don't know what he wants people to do.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like he played into a routine talking point that black people are going to be largely a fan of, which is the idea that you don't lean into us because we should be sticking together. And it's like, but here's the crazy thing about it, and this is the last thing that I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are going to hear this and they're not going to agree with this. In my mind, me calling out these people is sticking up for them.
Thank you.
Like, that's how I think of it in my head. Like, I process this information. If I let this go and I don't say anything, I'm doing more harm than good.
Exactly.
So me saying something is actually sticking up for. You know, it's like the idea of being pro-black. Being pro-black means that you should kind of fall in line and parrot the pro-black talking points. Pro-blue, be pro-democrat, be pro-liberal, be pro all of this BS. And that means you're being pro-black. But in my opinion, being anti that and speaking out against that stuff is being pro-black
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with this. I just, it would be great if people like him, whenever they come out and they do stuff like this, okay, well then offer up your solution. Because you're being very vague.
Yeah,
We don't know who or what you're talking about. Clearly, this is something that you don't like. So what would you like Black people to do, David Banner? What is your practical solution for how we should go about being accountable for our respective behaviors?
Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
Hey, I agree, man. Hey, let us know down in the comment section, guys. All right. Am I tripping right now? Is JV Wins tripping? Are we some self-hating Negroes? Let us know down in the comment section, guys. I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
We engaged in all kind of coonery in that video. All kind of coonery.
Oh man.
All right, but that's it. We're done. Until next time, JV Wins, Dogon SS, Conscious Approach on Instagram at Con Approach, CONAPPROACH. I'm on Instagram, JV Wins, JVWINS. You can join my legions of 171 followers over there on that side.
Yeah.
Bad year for me. Dolphin season is over. Seminole season is over.
Boy.
I'm not, the Heat ain't looking. I'm not really optimistic about what's going on with the Heat this year, but we'll see what happens. Either way, until the next video, you know how I like to kick it, man. Think for yourself, have a mind of your own. And until the next time, man, we'll catch y'all on the flip side.
Yeah. And the name is Dogon SS. And I would like to thank everybody that's been hitting that subscribe button and leaving comments, man. We really appreciate the engagement, guys. All right. And all those thumbs up that we be getting on our little thumbnails and all our little action that we be having popping, man. You guys are greatly appreciated, man. And the real MVPs. All right. How about that? All right. And so, as I say on every pod, guys, all right, don't be too high. Don't be too low. Keep it calm. Keep it chill. Keep it player. And don't let anybody get you off your pivot, including the people that's calling you crabs in a barrel. So until the next time, everybody, more rings than Robert Ory. We'll catch y'all on the flip side. Go Canes. That boy did not catch the ball.
Oh boy, yeah. When this video drop next week, boy, they're gonna be like, look at these two sellouts. Don't waste our time looking at these videos. These boys sellouts. All right. We out. We'll see y'all later.
Hey,
peace.
Keep your heart lighter than a feather. Okay.